KNBR. Sponsored by Industrial Metal Supply. On the sports leader. Check the live stream on YouTube at KNBR 1045. Here's your host, Kerry Crowley.
We are back. What's going on, folks? Kerry Crowley hanging out with you, starting here at 7 o'clock this evening and taking you all the way through to the end of Warriors-Grizzlies tonight. Golden State and Memphis going at it over at Chase Center this evening. The winner, they've earned their playoff berth, headed to Houston to take on the Rockets on Sunday. The loser, they'll have to play on Friday. And quite honestly, no matter what happens, their season is probably over in the very short future, because even if that team wins on Friday, they'll have to go take on the Oklahoma City Thunder on short rest. Not an assignment that any team in the NBA wants, and certainly not a team like the Golden State Warriors with three-star players over the age of 34. Steph Curry nearing the end of his career. I still think we've got 2, 3, maybe even 4 more strong seasons from Steph Curry, but you never know, which makes tonight so important for the Golden State Warriors. And it means that we're not going to talk much Warriors this evening because they're in action. I know that many of you are out on the roads this evening. You'll want to catch up on the game when you're home. You've got it set up so that you can catch up. We are not going to give you score updates. We're not going to spoil anything for you. At the end of tonight's game, I will give you the final score. I will start breaking things down, and then I'll pass things on to our man John Dickinson, who will be doing Dubs OT over at Harmonic Brewing. Very much looking forward to JD doing another great show, regardless of the outcome this evening, because I do think JD, win, lose, or draw, you don't get any of those in the NBA, but he always does a great show. So tonight, we're talking San Francisco Giants. 8 o'clock hour, we'll probably talk some San Francisco 49ers. More than anything, we can talk what you want to talk about. 415-808-KNBR is the number. I would love to hear from you. All things Giants baseball here in the 7 o'clock hour. A Giants team that lost for the 5th time this season, 12-5 after this second loss on the road trip. First coming on Saturday against the New York Yankees. Giants, of course, come roaring back with a comeback win on Monday evening. They take the lead tonight against the Philadelphia Phillies in the top of the 6th inning. Justin Verlander not able to hold it in the bottom half. The Giants ultimately lose 6-4 to the Phillies. Your thoughts on the loss, your thoughts on Bob Melvin's bullpen management, your thoughts on Bob Melvin and the way that he's handled this pitching staff thus far, because that, to me, is where I want to start. And I really want to talk about the one pitch, in my opinion, that swung this game in the Phillies' favor. Because I think that Tuesday's outcome could look completely different for the San Francisco Giants if one pitch had gone their way. And that's not to say that this was a game that got away from the Giants. This isn't to say that tonight was a bad loss. The Phillies are a quality opponent. They're 10-7. You know, if you ask me now, I think that they'll probably win the NL East. I think that they're better than the Mets. I think the Braves are off to a terrible start, and they're a lot better than the Braves. The Nationals, the Marlins, non-factors in the NL East. It'll probably come down to Philly and New York, and give me Philly in that scenario. I like the team with better starting pitching, and the Phillies have it. So Giants saw some of that tonight in Jesus Luzardo. They were able to hit Luzardo the second time through the order. That 4th inning, Casey Schmidt getting the job done. Righty on lefty. Casey Schmidt knocks one into left field in a big situation for the Giants. Gave you some confidence that maybe tonight's ball game would go like last night's, but alas, that wasn't the case. Because top of the 6th inning rolls around, and I was mildly surprised to see Bob Melvin sticking with Justin Verlander after the Giants took that 3-2 lead. Wilmer Flores puts them ahead, ground ball that Jung-Hoo Lee just read perfectly off the bat. I mean, Trey Turner was drawn in the infield with one out, and Flores hits one sharply on the ground, but Jung-Hoo Lee was running the entire way. He had a great lead off of third with a left-hander Luzardo on the mound, and he was sprinting toward home plate to the point where Trey Turner could not risk throwing home. Giants took the lead there. So I figure 3-2, Verlander's pitch count is in the high 80s at this point. It's probably unlikely that we see him in the bottom half of the inning. Instead, Bob Melvin sends him out there. And I do understand why. Because you're playing 17 games in 17 days. It's brutal on a pitching staff, especially in the month of April, when starting pitchers aren't going as deep into ball games, when pitch counts can drag out a little bit. The Giants got the short start from Robbie Ray on Friday where he just went 4, even though the bullpen wasn't taxed. Logan Webb didn't pitch as deep into Sunday's game as you would want him to. Landon Roop had a labor through 5 last night. You're using a lot of pitchers early on this 10-game road trip, and you're using a lot of relievers heavily early in the season with their workload. So I get the idea of Bob Melvin sending Justin Verlander back to the mound for the 6th inning. He's a 42-year-old veteran. Look, you're not worried about him blowing the elbow out. Like, you know that for the most part, if Justin Verlander can give you 100 pitches, he's good for it. And the stuff might not be the same quality, but you can take the risk of sending him back to the mound. The reason that I was mildly surprised is because the Phillies had the heart of their order coming up. It was Bryce Harper, it was Kyle Schwarber, and it was Nick Castellanos due up 3-4-5 in the bottom of the 6th inning, and the Giants were clinging to a 1-run lead at that point. So I figured maybe Bob Melvin goes Trevino, Rodriguez, Rogers, Walker, and they try to get out of that situation. Rogers, of course, had pitched on back-to-back days. That would have been asking him to go 3 in a row. So maybe it would have been something like Trevino, Rodriguez, Doval, Walker, or, maybe you ask Eric Miller to come in yet again, but you were probably going to have to get an inning out of a Birdsong or a Trevino or a Bivens at some point. And I get the sentiment of sending Verlander back out to the hill, but I probably would have had Rodriguez warming up because he's the fireman for this Giant squad. He is the guy who comes in dirty innings and he cleans things up. So my belief is if Justin Verlander, with his high pitch count, in those whipping wind conditions at Citizens Bank Park tonight, if he'd been in a scenario where a runner gets on base, okay, it's a one-run ball game. You're not taking any chances. You're going to Randy Rodriguez out of the bullpen, and that's it. Thanks for playing, Justin. We signed you to give us 5 quality innings. You did that. We will take it from here. Even on a night where we needed our starter to go a little bit deeper, we will still take 5. Instead, after Kyle Schwarber singles with a line drive to Luis Matos out in right field, Bob Melvin lets Verlander stay in that ball game. And he faces Nick Castellanos, who comes up and really the Phillies' hottest hitter at the moment. You come into tonight's ball game, Castellanos hitting .308, an .890 OPS. I mean, outside of Schwarber, he is the guy with the highest OPS on the team. He's been doing the most damage. Giants saw it in Monday evening's ball game when he absolutely launched one off of Landon Roop. Middle inning scenario here. Look, you trust Verlander potentially to get that out, but it comes back to bite you because with 1 out and 1 on, Castellanos ropes a single into left field. So I figure at this point, back-to-back hits, Verlander's pitch count in the 90s, approaching 100. Okay, it's time to get him out of that ball game. It's enough. Can't have it anymore. Instead, JT Realmuto at the plate, Bob Melvin lets Verlander stay in that ball game. He really wanted him to complete 6 innings. And I know that over a course of 17 games and 17 days, there are going to be, frustrating circumstances for a manager where a pitcher doesn't give you as much depth as you need, and you're kind of going to have to force him to eat it. You're kind of going to have to ride his arm. But I felt with the way that the Giants had come back in this ball game, by the fact that they'd taken the lead in the top half of the 6th inning, this was not a game the Giants could play games with, couldn't take chances with. And yet, after those back-to-back singles from Schwarber and Castellanos, JT Realmuto steps up, and Verlander's allowed to face him. So you've got Randy Rodriguez loose. You know that you're probably going to him at some point during this ball game anyway because he's already getting loose. And instead, Verlander stays in. So what happens here? Well, this isn't Verlander's fault, and this isn't Bob Melvin's fault. But Realmuto skies a ball down the left field line. And if you watch closely, he was furious with himself. He kind of tossed his bat into the ground. As soon as he made contact, he's looking down, dejected. He knows that it's the second out of the inning, that it's a situation with a runner in scoring position where the Phillies have been flailing all season long so far, where he didn't come through. But Elliot Ramos, off the bat, the Giants left fielder, did not get a good jump. In fact, didn't get a remotely average jump in this scenario. Took 2 steps back, and then starts racing forward and still seems uncertain of where this ball is going to be. And so Ramos comes tumbling toward the left field line, and a ball that, according to StatCast, had a 1% probability of becoming a hit. Again, I don't know how much I believe that. I think this probably had more like a 5 to 10% chance of becoming a hit, but according to StatCast, it was 1%. It becomes a base hit. Kyle Schwarber scores the game-tying run. The Phillies get 3 consecutive hits in the 6th inning against Justin Verlander. And all of a sudden, it's a brand new ball game where you're on the road in a tough environment in bad conditions with the wind whipping tonight. and you've got to get Justin Verlander out of that ballgame. But instead, Bob Melvin continues to leave Verlander in. I was stunned that he did so, and it just shows how important getting through 6 was for both the starter and the manager tonight. How much they view Jordan Hicks' next start and Robbie Ray's next start as difficult scenarios for this team, because they're playing 10 games in 10 days. And Hicks and Ray are not pitchers who've reliably proven thus far this season that they can be counted on to get 18 outs. It's more like 15. And the Giants need their starters to get 18 right now. Verlander was a good bet to do it. But when the 5th inning started and you get 1 hit, okay, maybe you tempt fate and let him stay out there for 1 more. See if he can roll the ground ball 6-4-3 and call it a day. Instead, that 2nd hit, okay, I probably go to the bullpen at that point. But after 3 hits from the Phillies in the 6th inning, tie ball game, Bob Melvin sticks with Justin Verlander yet again. Max Kepler lines out to Willy Adames. It's a rope to the Giants shortstop. Giants try to double off Castellanos at second base. They came very close, unable to do so. But after that rope and after 3 consecutive hits, you've still got Justin Verlander in this ballgame. I couldn't believe it. Randy Rodriguez has been getting loose for what felt like 10 minutes at that point. Rodriguez was ready to come in, keep that a tie ballgame against Alec Boehm, who's been terrible for the Phillies this season. Boehm got dropped to the 8th slot in the order. He's hitting a $162, and the OPS is sitting at 365. I mean, that's horrific. But Boehm is the guy who delivers the go-ahead single, because Justin Verlander had been in there too long, and on what, his 104th pitch of the evening? I think that was it for the Giants veteran. He throws a pitch, it was his 104th pitch, that Boehm ropes into left center field, does some damage with. JT Realmuto goes over to third. Nick Castellanos comes in to score the go-ahead run. The Phillies don't have to look back from there. It was a situation tonight where in the 6th inning, I felt like had the Giants gone to Randy Rodriguez earlier, we might be talking about a completely different outcome, completely different result. And maybe Bob Melvin did the right thing here by playing the long game. Maybe the Giants manager understands that it's 17 games in 17 days, and you can't win them all. No one's going to go 162-0, and you're not going to go 10-0 on a road trip. You have to preserve your bullpen at some point. But with Rodriguez warming, and after back-to-back hits, I don't think I would have left Justin Verlander in there to face JT Realmuto. And Realmuto didn't make great contact. He didn't. Elliot Ramos should have come down with that ball. The Phillies should not have tied that ball game. Ramos should have made that catch, and then the Giants can get out of that inning with 1 more out, with the line out that Kepler hit to the shortstop, Willy Adames. Instead, the Phillies keep the inning going. They not only tie the ball game, but Alec Boehm gives them the 2-out hit that the Phillies have been craving. Their worst hitter in the lineup at this point, in situations where they've been absolutely awful this season. He comes through, and this game to me swung on 1 pitch. And it was the pitch that JT Realmuto lofted down the left field line that the Giants couldn't come up with. For so much of this early season, we've talked about this Giants baseball team playing clean, sound, fundamental defense. Playing really well on that side of the ball. And that doesn't go down as an error. But it does go down as the type of play that loses you a ball game, because it completely shifts what the Giants do in their bullpen. Instead of having Rodriguez come in earlier to put out the fire and keep the game tied, instead of being able to go to some of your premium arms, you are then calling on Hayden Birdsong in the 7th inning on 1 day of rest, which, again, I don't get that. I would have gone Spencer Bivens there, and I probably would have asked Bivens to go 2 innings at that point. But instead of being able to use your middle inning and high leverage relievers, maybe rely on Ryan Walker for a 5 or a 6 out save on a night like tonight, the Giants are in a situation where they're falling behind, trying to play catch up against Jose Alvarado, and try as they might, they did a great job against the left-hander who throws 100, just bowling balls out of the bullpen for the Phillies. They couldn't come back. They ultimately fall behind. Birdsong gives up the 2-run home run to Bryce Harper. It was a really tough situation. Let's go out to the phone lines right now. 415-808-KNBR is the number. Let's go to Paulie in San Francisco. Paulie in San Francisco, you're on Sports Phone. Paulie, how's it going this evening?
Hi. Well, I called, and the person who picked up asked me what I called about, and I said everything that you just said. It's a little. It was wild. I think that well, a couple of things real quick to add to what you said, which is that I think Verlander is a 90-pitch pitcher. He's
okay.
To.
Yeah.
And he can give you 90 pitches. And I think Bob Melvin, he's obviously a great successful manager. He's old school. He wanted 6 innings. He was going to get it no matter what. Even after the first hit in the 6th, they should have pulled Verlander. But I think they have to have acceptance around the 90 pitches. And I think that look at playing the long game you talked about. This is 1 inning we're talking about, you know?
Yeah.
And and I think that this is a win they could have gotten, you know?
Yeah.
And also for Verlander's self-esteem, he's a proud, all-time great veteran, leaving after 5 innings with a lead when he gave up 2 runs in the first 2 innings and then he shut them down. It's a confidence booster as opposed to getting destroyed. The other thing I wanted to say is what you said. You know, when Buster came and watched the Giants last year, he was reportedly horrified that they couldn't even hit the cutoff man. And we're doing Buster ball. We're playing sound, great baseball. Not only did we field poorly, which happens, and it's an anomaly, we didn't run the bases well. John Miller was saying how guys didn't know where the ball was, which means they weren't watching Matt Williams, and that was out of character too.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. We saw a number of out-of-character things tonight. Paulie, thank you for the phone call. Appreciate your thoughts. And I think that Justin Verlander is a 90-pitch guy. That's probably being realistic at this point in his career. The challenge for the Giants right now is Robbie Ray's kind of a 90-pitch guy. Jordan Hicks, 80, 85-pitch guy. I don't think you can rely on Ray or Hicks or Verlander right now to be great past 90 pitches. And Landon Roop, in his first full season as a starter, I don't think you're getting that either. So you're in a situation where you're going to have a bullpen that's overworked and constantly overtaxed. And you're going to have Randy Rodriguez, Eric Miller, and Tyler Rogers each throwing 80 games this season. Feels unrealistic and unsustainable to me. But that's where the Giants might be because of the makeup of this rotation. They're going to need to get these pitchers deeper into ball games. Bob Melvin tried to coax 6 innings out of Justin Verlander tonight. But in a game that was a 1-run game where the Giants had fought their way back, where they performed valiantly at the plate against Jesus Luzardo, I think that you go to your bullpen and you say maybe tomorrow's the day that you give in and you may not have your premium relievers lined up. Giants tonight felt like they may have given that one away by leaving Verlander out there for too long. Mike in San Francisco, you're on Sports Phone. Mike, how's it going this evening?
Watching the River Cats, and David VR just came up with a base hit. I think he gets another one. He's hitting 400. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the way, non-personally too, the way we look at, we used to look at the Giants over the last 7 years, or the Farhan era.
Okay.
And the way we might be looking at it now. And this isn't like according to today, because I only listen to the game on the radio. Mm-hmm. Just where in the past I've seen, and this is baseball, we talk about it on a night-to-night basis, and we just let it fly. But just in the past where we get wrapped up in like a play a player could have had, and talk about sending them down to the minors, for instance. And the way that was kind of like ran suit with the Farhan era, like what Tyler Fitzgerald was saying yesterday, that you know, maybe last year I would have got sent down to the minors for playing like the way I was playing, but he was hitting 250, right? And maybe he didn't have an OPS or whatever, but there was a couple plays here and there where, maybe his arm got dug in the dirt on a infield ground ball that cost us a run. It didn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think, me personally, that's all I could do is take a step back and say, hey, I got a guy I could trust that's running the organization and a manager that has a say. And, I'm not even trying to disrespect anyone on their way out. It's just a different way we're looking at it. That's not so much analytics.
Yeah. I do think that the long game, the big picture approach, what the Giants are trying to do here, it all factors into every consideration. And so, giving Tyler Fitzgerald the leash that he's had at the start of the season, you get games like you saw on Monday night, but it also plays into the micro in that, you want Justin Verlander to get you through 6 innings tonight because it means more for resting the bullpen and it means more for setting your team up for success later on in this road trip. Whereas I really felt like tonight was one where the Giants could have gone for it and lined up their relievers in a way that would have set things up for a little bit more late inning success. And so, you lose tonight, but maybe it pays off in the long run not to have to burn Doval and Rogers and Walker this evening. Who knows?
Yeah, I hear you on that. Like, looking at today's game, I was like, well, Verlander's facing like some young stud, right, for the Phillies. Not even sure who pitched for them. It was
today, Luzardo. I mean, he's had an up and down career. He was a top prospect. He was someone who hasn't been great, hasn't lived up to expectations, but I think is someone who can be really tough when he's right. And so far this season, he's been pretty good for Philly.
Yeah. So, well, that's just the way I saw it. Like, if we got 2 games out of the series, I'd be happy. But Ray, on a bright note, Ray's got kind of like what seemingly looks like possibly something he could cruise with tomorrow. They got a 6 ERA guy maybe going. And
I haven't checked the matchup, but shouldn't it be? Yeah, it should be Robbie tomorrow. Yeah, Hicks on Thursday should be the way that the Giants set things up.
All right, that's all I got, Kerry.
Yeah, appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much, Mike. Good stuff. 415-808-KNBR is the number. Let's head out to Bill up in Billings, Montana. Bill calling us from Billings. How's it going this evening?
Hey, Kerry. It's good to talk to you. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, love that. Thank you so much for dialing in. Yeah,
well, I'm from San Francisco. I just live up here in Montana now. Anyways, I'm just ecstatic about the way the season's turning out. I'm tired of the negative media in the Bay Area, like just being, nitpicking on everything that the Giants are doing. Buster has got his team running great, and tonight Bo Mel was playing the long game. He's looking ahead because we have 17 games ahead of us on the road, and that's all there is.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from. I will say you might be the first person to ever characterize Bay Area media as negative compared to, say, Philadelphia, New York, Boston. So I think that's an interesting distinction.
I get that. Since we've been playing the Phillies, I've been listening to WIP. And they hate the Phillies. Like, their home station hates the Phillies. I have a
it's a little different on the East Coast. It's a little different environment out there.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't mean the media. I probably meant the fans more. But
all good.
Yeah, but no, WIP thinks the Phillies are the worst team in baseball, and I'm a baseball KNBR listener. But anyways. I just think Bo Mel's playing the long game. I think Buster's got his team going great, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you so much for the call, Bill. Always feel free to dial in. Appreciate your thoughts and your phone call. 415-808-KNBR is the number. That pitching matchup for you tomorrow. Robbie Ray going for the Giants, 3-0, a 2.93 ERA. Aaron Nola going for the Philadelphia Phillies, 0-3, a 5.51 ERA. But over the course of their careers, I take Aaron Nola's career to date, even though Ray does have the Cy Young. Let's go to Andrea in Berkeley. Andrea in Berkeley, you're on Sports Phone. Andrea, how are you this evening?
Good, Kerry. How are you?
Oh, doing well on my end. What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we have to manage our expectations of Verlander. He's a Pisces, and he has Mars in Pisces, and Saturn is there now, and Mars is a crucial planet for an athlete. So long story short, basically he's feeling lowered energy and vitality. And Neptune on his Mars also is very discouraging. If you happen to hear his post-game press conference.
Yeah, we're going to play some of that later on this evening, for sure.
Yeah, he sounded like really lost. And, I think we need to just be glad he's a mentor in the clubhouse for the pitchers. And we got an extra pitching coach in the deal. I think we need to reframe our expectations with him because this lowered energy and vitality transit that he's going through on and off this season.
I think that's a good point, interesting point. Thank you for the phone call, Andrea. We do have to get to a quick break here in just a moment. But Justin Verlander, look, 42 years old. It's been a Hall of Fame career. He's in his 21st Major League season. I do think that it's unrealistic to expect 6+ innings and 100+ pitches every time out for Verlander. The Giants would have loved to have seen that tonight. He had the shot against the heart of the Phillies order, was given the opportunity. He got Bryce Harper out to start the 6th inning, but he wasn't able to hold on to that lead. And so no doubt he's going to be disappointed about that because he expects every time out. No wonder if his stuff is diminished, if his stuff is diminished over the last 2 years, and as he creeps up into his 40s, it's not going to be the same as it was when he was a Cy Young caliber arm. But I do think that the Giants wanted him to get through 6. He desperately wanted to get through 6 and keep this team in line for the win. Wasn't able to do so, and that Elliot Ramos fly ball that he wasn't able to catch up to JT Realmuto hit down the left field line, ultimately playing a big outcome in tonight's ball game. More when we come back. Your thoughts on the San Francisco Giants. We'll also play some sound, Justin Verlander and Bob Melvin when we come back. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Justin Verlander sets the pitch on the way. Swing, and there's a high fly ball along the left field line, circling around it to his right as the wind is knocking it down. Is Ramos. He goes into a slide and he can't get it. And the tying run is going to score. Ramos was playing way over into the alleyway off the line. And I don't think that he accounted for the wind knocking that one down as much as it did. He started after it, then he had to accelerate, and he didn't really make a dive so much as he kind of went into a slide for that one.
I said one pitch significantly altered the outcome of tonight's ball game for the San Francisco Giants. And our producer, Jacob Violante, pulls up the highlight. He plays the pitch. Jordan, who's cutting sound tonight. They all do a great job behind the glass here at KNBR. We're grateful to have them even on nights where the San Francisco Giants fail to take care of business. And, I was talking on Monday evening. I would be remiss if I did not address the strike that Eric Miller got called on JT Realmuto last night, 3-2 count, would have extended the inning if Realmuto had walked in that situation. Maybe a completely different ball game if Realmuto is on base and the Phillies can rally before the Giants take off in the late innings and add on 4 more runs. Eric Miller got one of the all-time gifts of a strike call last night for the San Francisco Giants. Home plate umpire Tony Randazzo just blew a call behind home plate, giving him a strikeout of Realmuto. Phillies fans and Philly Sports Talk Radio, they were wondering if Rob Thompson, the Phillies manager, should have gone out and forced his way into an ejection last night. That's how egregious the call was. So the Giants will take that one. Tonight, the play is decided inside the lines. And look, the Giants were still going to win last night's ball game, even if that pitch had gone in the Phillies' favor. But tonight, something that happens inside the lines really helps out the Philadelphia Phillies, and that is a ball that had a 1% probability of becoming a hit, according to StatCast, falls. Justin Verlander loses the lead, and the Giants ultimately lose this ball game as Bob Melvin sticks with Verlander throughout that 6th inning, even after Elliot Ramos not able to catch that fly ball that JT Realmuto hit down the left field line. And then, of course, Alec Boehm, who'd been, 2 for his last 30 at the plate, it felt like, even though he got a hit in last night's ball game. He comes through with a big go-ahead single into left center field. So the Phillies, a team that can't get a hit with the runner in scoring position. Alec Boehm, a guy who can't get a hit at all. It all adds up to a night where things just went Philadelphia's way. Things didn't go the Giants' way. They were trying to get Justin Verlander through 6 innings. And that sometimes you have to do that. It's part of baseball. It's part of the 17 games and 17 days test that this Giants team is on. And sometimes things just don't go your way. 415-808-KNBR is the number. Let's go to Mary in Cotati. Mary in Cotati, you're on Sports Phone. Mary, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, doing well on my end. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, okay, a couple of things. First of all, I think that Ramos, well, of course, it's apparent, should have caught that ball. I do not know. I watched the replay on that attempt to catch the ball, and he looked like he was running sideways and then did a slight pirouette like he was trying to do something really extravagantly beautiful. It turned into be a missed ball. I don't understand his strategy. I think he took off late. And I think that he realized at the end, that I cannot catch it. So anyhow, then the next thing is the whole Verlander thing. I've been a long time Bay Area baseball fan, and for a long time I followed the Oakland A's. So I know Bo Mel really well. And he has a tendency to leave pitchers in just too long. Anyhow, I understand the thought about the long haul for the road trip being a long series of games. But I really think that in the short run, tonight's win was very doable. Had they won, it would have been a more powerful boost, and they could have used a little more of the bullpen. But a win is a win is a win, and that fuels energy more than using up your bullpen to create a messy loss situation. So I don't really understand why they didn't pull Verlander. They pulled Lizard. Philly pulled Lizard in the 5th inning. They could have pulled Verlander. And then one more thing. I have to take a little umbrage with the comment from the stargazing queen. I'm sorry. I don't care about Verlander's planetary transit.
Hey, look, we let everyone on this show. We let everyone on, and they get to say their piece.
Right. So, Andrea, this is from me, Marion Catati, and I listened to you when you called on the A's broadcast as well. But I need to tell you that he's being paid a great deal of money, and he should look at his bank account and get the energy he needs, and not to Mars or Saturn or Pluto for whatever energy that he needs while he's on the mound. So I understand, but I think that Verlander really should have himself not wanted to push himself into the sixth inning. As a professional, I think he should have given up the ball. And Melvin should have just let it happen instead of going with what turned out to be a disastrous thing with Birdsong giving up a triple in the very first batter that he faced. So, and tonight's game to me, the most disappointing thing about it was very winnable. It was very winnable. And those are the worst to lose.
They are. You speak a lot of truth with regard to Ramos and Verlander there, Mary. I appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much. Look, I will also say this. Thank you for the call. Thanks to everyone for the call. We want to get everyone's voice heard on this show. Regardless of your perspective, regardless of what you want to talk about, we want to have you on. Your voice is valued here on KNBR. Mary, I appreciate the thoughts on Elliot Ramos. And look, it did look like he was running the side because as an outfielder, you were taught ball off the bat. If you think that it's going to be even depth with you or over your head, you're taking two steps back unless you know in an instant that ball is going to drop in front of you. And Ramos couldn't tell that with the way that ball came off of Real Muto's bat. I think that most outfielders probably could have. But on a night like tonight, where the winds were really whipping at Citizens Bank Park, where things were chaotic in the outfield in a way that they typically aren't, I do understand a guy who I think grades out as a below average outfielder not catching that fly ball. I'm relatively confident that Luis Matos would have had it if he was out there in left field, but the Giants had Luis Matos in right field for much of the evening before Mike Yastrzemski ultimately replaced him. Elliot Ramos is someone who they want to get every day at bats to, and I understand that message. I understand that you want him in the order as the leadoff guy against left-handed pitching, but you're also going to have to put up with, over the course of 162 games, a fair amount of defensive lapses or defensive mistakes that a better fielder wouldn't make. And you hope that over the course of 162, Ramos hits 10 to 15 more home runs than another guy that the Giants could put out there. He drives in 20 to 30 more runs than another guy the Giants could put out there. Now, he's in the midst of a real cold stretch at the plate, so that doesn't particularly help the Giants right now. But that's where, that's kind of where I think, Ramos was thinking on that fly ball. Is off the bat, it looks like it could be deep. You don't want to take any chances, and so he ultimately gets a bad break on it, a bad jump. You can't let that happen. There's no excuse for a major league ball player, but I do think that he was thinking fundamentally off the bat. If you don't know that it's going to drop in front of you, you take the step back, and it was just unfortunate for Ramos that it was very clearly going to drop in front of him. Now, with regard to Mary and Justin Verlander, look, you are almost never going to have a pitcher, regardless of their age, regardless of their experience level, say after 5 innings, that's it, Skipper, I'm done, handing you the baseball. And I think in a perfect world, Justin Verlander probably would have known that he was at the end of the line tonight. Probably would have known that it wasn't the best idea to face a Bryce Harper, a Kyle Schwarber, a Nick Castellanos. But in a perfect world, you're not playing 17 games in 17 days. In a perfect world, you've got a third starter in Robbie Ray and a fourth starter in Jordan Hicks, who you can rely on for more than 85, 90 pitches at a time. The Giants just don't have that. While I think that this rotation can be really good, while I think that the ceiling on this rotation is relatively high, I also believe that behind Logan Webb, who I trust to give you 110 clean pitches every time he goes and takes the mound, I think that for the most part, the other pitchers can all be trusted to throw between 80 and 90 pitches, and anything you get above 90 is absolute gravy. And tonight was one of those nights where the Giants needed to try to extract more from their starting pitcher. And it just so happened that the inning that they needed that to happen was when the Phillies had some of their best hitters come to the plate. If that inning starts and Verlander is facing, say, Real Muto, Kepler, and Bohm, then I feel a lot more confident about his ability to go out and get 3 outs on 15 pitches. But because it's Harper, Schwarber, and Castellanos being the hottest hitter of that trio at the time, I don't feel that great. And so there will be other times. Believe me, as Mary said, she watched the A's for years. Bob Melvin will leave his starters in for a while. There will be other times where the Giants do this season. I thought that they did it with, Robbie Ray at times on Friday night at Yankee Stadium. I probably would have had a quicker hook. Robbie Ray proved me wrong. He got through 4 innings of 1-run ball. There were times where it looked really tense for him. Jordan Hicks is someone that the Giants are going to need to push at times this season. They've done it already this year. Situations where Hicks has looked like, hey, you might need to remove him in the 3rd or the 4th. He's gotten you to the 5th or the 6th. And that matters. And so 1, 2, 3 pitches can decide a ball game. And tonight I really do think that one pitch had a huge impact on the way that the Giants managed these late innings. Because I didn't love the idea of going to Hayden Birdsong when the Giants went to Hayden Birdsong. This is someone who's built up as a starting pitcher, someone who's coming off of 1 day of rest. I think I would have rather seen Bivens in that situation. And I know that you're trying to navigate the heart of the Phillies order. I know that Bryce Harper is a superstar, and you want your best stuff against Bryce Harper. And there's no question that Hayden Birdsong has better stuff than Spencer Bivens. But Hayden Birdsong is also better throwing when he's got multiple days in between his outings, and when you can really build him up to 40 to 50 to 60 pitches. That's how I want the Giants to be using Hayden Birdsong. Is, hey, if Robbie Ray goes 4 innings today, then we got Birdsong for 40 or 50 pitches. Then he's going 2 to 3 innings out of the bullpen. I thought that tonight was one of those nights where you could have seen Bivens maybe go 30 to 40 out of the bullpen and give you 2 quality frames. Instead, the Giants use both of those pitchers, and they do so in a losing effort, 6-4. When we come back, more thoughts on the San Francisco Giants. We'll keep it Giant-centric here in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll do a little bit more Giants in the 8 o'clock hour, and then I will do some 49ers draft talk around 8:15, 8:30 this evening as we get you set for Dubs OT later on tonight. Warriors and Grizzlies do we battle over at Chase Center. I know we've probably lost about half our audience to that matchup this evening. That's okay. It's a pivotal matchup. But if you want to talk Giants baseball, the phone lines are wide open. 415-808-KNBR is the number. We will take your call. All voices will be heard here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Here's a pitch that misses, runners go, and no throw attempted from Real Muto. A double steal for the Giants. Chapman swipes third, and Flores, the trail runner, steals second.
Giants lose 6-4 this evening. 1-1 in the series so far against the Philadelphia Phillies, but I'm glad that our producer, Jacob, dug up the Wilmer Flores highlight there. Yes, Wilmer Flores on the back end of that double steal, his first stolen base since 2021. If nobody got me, Wilmer Flores got me. 415-808 KNBR is the number. Kerry Crowley talking Giants baseball here in the 7 o'clock hours. We roll toward 8 o'clock. We'll have Dubs OT later on this evening after the Warriors and Grizzlies wrap up over at Chase Center. Right now, we're headed back out to the phone lines. Mary in Petaluma. Mary in Petaluma, you're on Sports Phone. Mary, how's it going this evening?
Hi, Perry. It's good to speak to you. And I'm the good Mary calling.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, very, very well done. Very diplomatic, very kind of you addressing the caller who didn't follow directions earlier. And I don't really have anything to talk about tonight's game. I was going to call last week, because I love chatting with you, but you were talking about like the cohesion, the old school cohesion that is very evident in this year's Giants squad, including the PA guys. Javi doing color and play-by-play. Hunter doing a couple games. And even when I saw Sergio Romo on the air the other night, he's grown into himself. You know what I mean?
He has.
Gone is the nervous kind of goofiness, which was always endearing. But it's really nice that Buster and his crew have come together to just see what happens if. And you know what? Good shit is happening, Terry.
Yeah. You know what, Mary? Isn't it funny when, you go through and you watch all these great players and you become so attached to them through the years in 10, 12, and 14, and then you get to this era and you're watching them on TV. You're watching them take over management. You're watching them play different roles with an organization because, you're a Giants fan forever, but they had so much success in a Giants uniform that they don't want to leave. They want to have some part of the future success of this organization. They want to stay involved, and for some players, that's being on TV. For some players, that's broadcasting. For some players, like Buster Posey, that's running the whole ship.
Exactly. And they all seem to, there's a good niche. You don't take a championship team just because you disperse. It doesn't mean you're not left with a bunch of champions. You know what I mean? And I think we're seeing evidence of that. Anyway, mostly I wanted to commend you for your diplomacy and your patience with when we callers don't follow direction. You're very kind, and I love your show.
Well, I appreciate you so much, Mary. Thank you so much for the call. We really do. Right. We really do have such great callers here on KNBR. It's a privilege to sit here with you in the evenings, on the weekends with Giants pregame show, Giants warm-up, talking baseball with all of you, because I really feel, I listen into other stations. We had, a caller, Bill from Billings, earlier say that he was listening to WIP in Philadelphia. I listen to other stations. I try and get a preview of each series, thinking about, what are they talking about in Cincinnati? What are they talking about in Houston or Seattle before this series? And, I just feel like Giants fans know so much about baseball. So many of you start your calls by saying, I was a Giants fan since 1958 when the franchise moved west to San Francisco. And believe me, that's not lost on me. I sit here every night and realize how lucky I am to be behind the microphone listening to people who care deeply about this team. And really, this runs through generations of San Francisco sports fans, of Bay Area sports fans, and of sports fans around the country. As you spread out, some of you grew up in the Bay Area, some of you moved away and went to different places, but your love of the game and your love of the Giants has never left you. So it's always a privilege to be able to talk with you. Let's head up to Greg in Portland. Our friend Greg in Portland, you're on Sports Phone. Greg, how are you this evening?
Kerry, what a great call from Mary.
Oh, she's funny. She's great.
Well, she robbed me of my thunder. So, I'm proud Greg. I am like, I felt what she said. I was going to talk about that. I am part of what you just said. I am 70. I started playing Little League Baseball when the Giants moved west. And, that was the team. Up here in Portland, you rooted for the Giants.
Yeah.
And we got to see, Willie Mays and McCovey and Marichal, on black and white TV, maybe once a week, and listen to the radio on summer nights when it got clear and you could pick up AM radio. And
I love it. I love it.
And have suffered until it finally all ended in 2010.
52 years. Yep.
Oh, God, and that awful series against the Angels.
Oh, believe me. Oh, that was my introduction, Greg, to Giants baseball as a kid. I mean, I followed 2000, I followed 2001, but I'll tell you, if you want to, Greg, we can have you hang around on the other side and keep telling stories with me. We have to take a quick break here. I really apologize to do this. I hate to cut you off mid-segment because I love when you call and I love your story. So if you want to hang around, we'll get you right on after this break. You're listening. Sports on KNBR 104.5, 680, the sports leader.
This is the flagship of Giants baseball. Double play! KNBR and KNBR FS San Francisco, the sports leader. The nighttime is the right time for Sports Phone KNBR. Let's go on the sports leader. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, we're back here on Sports Phone KNBR, and we're about to do something we typically only do for our guests. Our friends from the media, our friends from the Warriors, the 49ers, and the Giants who join us will sometimes say, hey, stick with us through a commercial break here. But we've got one of my favorite callers on the line, Greg in Portland. He was kind enough to stay with us, to hang with us through that commercial break. Greg, reintroduction here for those of us who are just getting back into the swing of things. How are you?
I'm good. Of course, 12-5 makes me real good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's been an enjoyable 12-5 because it's been different, right? Like this Giants team, you don't feel they're out of a game when they fall behind early.
No, you don't. And that's what I wanted to talk about, except Mary was so inspiring to me. You know, she's a certain age like me. But what has struck me about this team, you know, and it's not even Easter yet, but still they're playing differently. They're playing the right way. They're not out of it. They can rally. They are not committing not only errors, but what I like to call M's. They're not making mistakes.
Yeah.
Now it's very early. But Marty Lurie will tell you about me. Bill, I'm going back. I know Raph is still there. I hope he's listening.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Raph will say, oh, God, Greg, he's back. Carmen, on Sunday afternoons, even during the good years, defense, pitching, and playing properly, running the bases correctly. That's why I wanted to run Dubon out of the town and into the Bay. And now he goes to a different franchise, Houston, where they teach guys how to play. And now Dubon is on TV once a week, and he's a good ball player. Of course he is, because now he plays good baseball. And now we're playing good baseball again. And I can watch these guys. Even if they lose, they're playing the game right again. And that goes back to what Mary was talking about. You've got the right guys being the skippers of the ships now. Mm-hmm. Not just Buster, but the organization is what it should be. And I'm sorry, I'm just a fan. Zahidi, don't let the gate hit you in the butt on the way out the door. We got rid of these guys. We got new people, and we're like the fans that you said. You know, Giants fans know baseball. We are like East Coast fans. Not that we are negative to the point like Philly fans are, but we demand good baseball. We know the game. We're not like Seattle and all these cream puffs, these honks that root for the home team no matter what. And now we can get behind the team, even though we've been there all along. I come down and watch the Giants every summer, every season, and now that I'm I won't say spoiled. I'm one of those damn baby boomers that's got his inheritance. I can afford to come down and get good seats and sit in the best ballpark in the majors. And now I can watch, once again, better, decent baseball. If you lose playing right, that's okay. So I've been raving here, but what I'm excited about is they're playing better baseball. They're playing the game right. And I don't think they're going to stop playing the game right. I'll be surprised if this team wins 91 games.
Okay.
But they might win 90.
Yeah. I mean, hey, look, they're on a great pace at 12-5. You can't argue with that. And they played some tough competition.
You're damn right they have. Look who they're playing Philly, and they just got past the Yankees, and I'm just it's so fun to just watch decent, good baseball again.
Greg, let me ask you a quick question here. I want to know, because I know that you've been such a focused and dedicated Giants fan for so long now. How much do you think Giants fans value good pitching and defense and good fundamental baseball because of what they saw in 10, 12, and 14? Or does it go back a lot longer than that? Is it because Willie Mays set the standard in San Francisco? Is it because other players who I didn't have the privilege of watching when I was growing up, because they set the standard? Who were the fundamental guys who made longtime Giants fans so attached to that franchise and this style of play?
I think you just said it. I was born in 54. The Giants come out in 58, and I'm just old enough to start playing Little League baseball in 60, and we played right. We were taught to get your knee down and make yourself big and block that grounder, and the Giants did stuff like that, and they also played with an edge. Marichal taking the bat to the Dodgers.
That may have not been the most fundamentally sound moment in franchise history.
I know, but we loved hating the Dodgers.
Took it to an extreme there.
And play hard and like my favorite players, Willie McCovey, and then as I got older, became a young man, Will Clark.
Yeah,
Will the Thrill. That is my kind of ball player.
I mean, talk about intense.
Jeff Kent, Robbie Thompson. Those are the guys that that I loved. And I don't want cream puffs. I don't want prima donnas. I want guys that play the game right and are clutch, like Will Clark. I want the bases loaded. I want 2 outs. And I want a 3-2 count against the Dodgers. I'm going to bring that guy home from third. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Just like he did against the Cubs in '87. That's kind of player. I want a Blanco out there.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the most classic example of someone who's playing great fundamental baseball at the plate with their at bats and his clutch is Wilmer Flores, 21 RBIs this season. I mean, that is the definition of clutch with what he's done.
So those are the guys that I've always liked, and the Giants have had guys like that more often than not, and great fans. And I've got the little button, the quad, with the icicles. My uncle took me to a game where it was, 83, and you got it if the Giants won in extra innings a night game.
Yeah.
And at Candlestick, when it was, 58, 56 degrees, 1st of August, wind howling, misty. You might be able to see the seagulls above you. The visibility is so bad, and and you win. And I've still got that little button, and I wear it when I come, on my annual pilgrimage, and I wear it on my beaten, battered Giants hat that I finally was able to buy in 1982 on University Avenue. The evening I got to see the sixth lat. I was at the game, the big game.
Yeah.
And I was just recently graduated. $25 was a lot of money. I saw the game from cheap Skate Hill. Went down University Avenue, was full of humanity. And I went into this shop and I finally bought a Giants cap. And I still got that hat, and it looks like it's been from here to Romania, which I did wear all the way to Romania.
It's only 43 years old,
But that's
still got some
Giants
life in it.
Fans.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Giants fans. Guys say to me, they say, what? I had a guy this last summer. He said, "Look at that cap," and I said, "Yep." And I've had people tell me to buy a new one. I'm not. I'm gonna buy a new one when this thing falls off my head.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people share that longtime love and affection for the franchise, and I'm going to say no City Connect hat coming your way to Portland, Greg. We're not putting one in the mail.
Oh God, don't get me started. I'll talk. I will talk Easter Sunday.
I don't need to. Thank you so much for the phone call this evening.
You wear whites at home and grays on the road. That's it.
There we go. Thank you so much, Greg.
Appreciate
your thoughts.
Tonight. Okay.
Oh no,
bye-bye.
you're fun. Very very fun stuff.
Bye, Kerry.
Greg up in Portland. Always fun talking to him. 415-808-KNBR is the number. Look, tonight's turned into a little bit of story time, Giants fans. I think, a lot of people are focused on basketball this evening. I'm going to talk a little football here in the 8 o'clock hour, but certainly we love our diehard baseball audience here at KNBR. We know that you hang on every word of Giants baseball, and Mary said it well earlier. The Giants have had such a great broadcasting crew for so long in terms of what you hear from John Miller and Dave Fleming and Kruk and Kuiper, of course, but they've added and supplemented that group. And I think that, hearing former players such as Hunter Pence and Javi Lopez has really been a treat through the years, and to learn more about the game through the eyes of guys who were just recently retired and, played during the Giants' golden era. It's one of the things that has made, the last few years more interesting, in my opinion. Look, the Giants as a team in 22, 23, and 24 certainly weren't playing the most compelling brand of baseball. This is a franchise that struggled to put together an entertaining product, that struggled to fill the seats at Oracle Park. But one of the byproducts of that was a lot of you watch from home. And I had the opportunity throughout, pregame shows through the years and these sports phone shows that we've now done for a year and a half now, to listen to what you have to say about the broadcasts, and oftentimes to listen to the broadcast while I'm preparing for my own. And, it's very clear to me how great it is to have Javi Lopez up in the booth with Dave Fleming. It's very great to listen to Hunter Pence calling games with John Miller, and the chemistry that's developed between the longtime Giants broadcasters and the players who were out on the field creating memories, as Buster Posey would say, in 10, 12, and 14. Then coming up to the broadcast booth and playing a different role in how you as a fan experience the franchise that you know and that you love and you care about deeply through the years. Your love of Giants baseball doesn't just start one day and wane at the end of a season and you give up on them year to year. It's something that you carry with you through year after year after year, and you pass along through generation to generation. This is in people's families. This is in their blood. And so we can sit here, we can dissect every element of a 6-4 loss to the Philadelphia Phillies on Tuesday, April 15, 2025. But the more important thing to keep in mind is the big picture, what the Giants are ultimately hoping to achieve and what you as a fan ultimately want to see from the team this season. I spent so many evenings this offseason doing our Sports Phone KNBR shows and doing our Giants Hot Stove League shows, talking about the differences that you might expect in this year's roster, some of the changes that you could see with Buster Posey taking over as the president of baseball operations. And quite frankly, I'm still not even quite sure how much credit to give Buster, how much credit to give Farhan for assembling some of the roster that the Giants have right now, because it's not all that different of a roster, and you do have to give credit to the previous president of baseball operations, much like, you think of someone like Elliot Ramos, who of course didn't have his best game at the ballpark tonight, but he was a 2017 first-round draft pick. Who was in charge of the Giants back in 2017? Bobby Evans, and he's back in the front office right now, coming full circle, watching a guy who he drafted and he thought could be an all-star for the Giants in the outfield. He got to see that last season, watching from afar, and now this season he's hoping that Ramos can turn things around and be a part of a Giants victory on Wednesday in Philadelphia against the Phillies. It's Aaron Nola going for Philly. He struggled to open the season, and it's Robbie Ray going for the San Francisco Giants, 3-0 with a 2.93 ERA, 13 strikeouts through 3 games for Robbie Ray so far this year. When we come back, we'll take a look at scores around Major League Baseball. Then we will play some 49ers draft commentary for you later on this hour. I am Kerry Crowley, the show Sports Phone KNBR. We were rolling with you until the start of Dubs OT here on KNBR later on this evening. Dubs OT, John Dickinson will break down everything Warriors Grizzlies from Chase Center. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
We're not like Seattle and all these cream puffs.
Sports Phone KNBR keeps rolling live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpot Studios. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
So now two in scoring position. Infield back as Schmidt swings and lines it into left field, a base hit. Chapman scores, rounding third, Flores. Kepler's throw, and it is too late. Flores in with a slide, two-run score on a Casey Schmidt 2 RBI single. And just like that, the Giants have tied the game here in the fourth. It's 2-2.
A good piece of hitting from Casey Schmidt early in the ballgame as the Giants got back in it against Jesus Luzardo, the Philadelphia Phillies left-hander. They'd fallen behind 2-0 early, and with 2 outs and 2 on, Schmidt came through with that single into left field Giants tied up the ballgame. They'd later take a 3-2 lead on Wilmer Flores. Fielder's choice that Jung-Hoo Lee got a great read on, running all the way from third base, ball on the ground. Trey Turner had no choice but to go to first and get Flores, but the Giants could not hold on. We've dissected that every which way, and we'll continue to do so later on here in the 8 o'clock hour. But they ultimately lose 6-4. Not the best night for the San Francisco Giants on what has been a really solid start to this season. Giants 12-5 right now, 3-2 on this road trip, a very difficult 10-game road trip. And if you told me that at this juncture they'd be 3-2, every Giants fan would have taken that, considering the teams they're playing against, the New York Yankees, who could be the class of the American League East before all is said and done, the Philadelphia Phillies, who I like. I've mentioned this as my favorite in the NL East, ahead of the Mets, ahead of a Braves team that began the season as a favorite of a lot of different analysts and pundits, but a Braves team that is really struggling to start this season. Do want to take a quick spin around Major League Baseball. If you got any thoughts on the San Francisco Giants, please do dial in. 415-808-KNBR is the number. We're hanging out for a while here on KNBR this evening. We're going all the way till the start of Dubs OT, Warriors in action, halftime over at Chase Center. I know that there's many of you out on the road right now taping tonight's game. We're not going to give you updates, and we will let you know when that game goes final. We will have John Dickinson around for Dubs OT, but we can't give you updates right now for those of you out of respect who I know are waiting to get home and watch this game and catch up. So with that, we'll take a look around Major League Baseball. I doubt many of you are trying to figure out what's going on down in Los Angeles with the Dodgers. They're up 5-0 anyway against the Colorado Rockies, a team that's off to a 3-13 start, which is surprising to no one except everyone who works for the Rockies organization. Dodgers 5-0 right now, landing Knack on the hill for Los Angeles as they're poised to potentially move past the Giants with their 13th win of the season. Dodgers are 12-6, so the Giants, I think, would be statistically tied for them in the NL West standings. They are still 12-5 right now after tonight's 6-4 defeat to the Phillies. But neither of these teams will be in first place at the end of the evening because no matter what happens, the San Diego Padres control the National League West. They're 14-3 right now, and they've taken a 1-0 lead on a Manny Machado moonshot in the left center field at Petco Park earlier this evening. But the Chicago Cubs have just tied things up 1-1 in that ball game down at Petco Park, top of the sixth inning. The Padres 11-0 right now at home at Petco this season. The atmosphere has been incredible down there. I think they had 45,000 plus on Monday evening as Fernando Tatis Jr. stole the show for San Diego to win over the Cubs last night. Tonight, it's Adrian Morejon on the hill, and he did just get through the sixth inning, was able to strand two runners on base with Ian Happ at the plate for the Chicago Cubs. So Padres go to the bottom of the sixth inning with a chance to take the lead against the Cubs. They are so tough at Petco Park. And how about the Diamondbacks? They're now 10-7. My goodness, the NL West is just brutal. They win 10-4 over the Miami Marlins this evening. Merrill Kelly gets the win. He's now 3-1 with a 5.57 ERA. Connor Gillespie takes the loss for the Miami Marlins. Kelly gets the win, but the big story there was Corbin Carroll launching a grand slam. Carroll had 5 runs driven in, really been one of the best players in all of baseball to start this season. Carroll, I believe, just torching opposing pitching right now, and he lifts the D-backs past the Marlins with another grand slam. He's had a ton early in his career. Cincinnati Reds beat the Seattle Mariners earlier this evening at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. It was the first matchup for Luis Castillo against his former team. Former Giants prospect faced off against Cincinnati, gave up, I believe, 5 runs early in that ball game. Austin Hayes had a big 3-run home run, his first of the season for Cincinnati. Scott Barlow got the win in relief for Terry Francona's ball club. A few more scores to tell you about around the major leagues. Washington Nationals win at 3-0 over the Pittsburgh Pirates at PNC Park. The Pirates have fallen to 6-12. They're a sorry team right now. Couldn't build around Paul Skeens this offseason. Couldn't do anything. They haven't signed a free agent to a multi-year deal in something like a decade, so you're not going to be really relevant in Major League Baseball when you do that. Nationals won at 3-0. Jake Irvin got the win, Mitch Keller the loss for Pittsburgh, and Kyle Finnegan got the save there. Final in Tampa Bay, final at George Steinbrenner Field, which is where the Rays are playing their home games this season. The Red Sox bounced back from being trounced on Monday evening. They lost 16-2. They won 7-4 this evening with Walker Buehler getting the win, Ryan Pepio taking the loss, and Aroldis Chapman getting save number 4 for Boston. Chapman, 37 years old, still pumping 100 miles an hour. Cleveland Guardians won 6-3 over the Baltimore Orioles, who were off to a really slow start this season. The Guardians at 9-7 right now, but the Orioles, a disappointing 6-10 right now. It was Charlie Morton taking his 4th loss of the season. He's 0-4 with an 8.64 ERA. Just mentioned the Pirates not investing in players. How about the Baltimore Orioles? Just not really taking any free agents who could be of any value to that ball club and doing anything this offseason. Just no direction for Mike Elias, the president of baseball operations for that franchise. I just think that they've really dropped the ball in Baltimore and wasted a window here. And who knows, they could bounce back. They could become a factor in the American League East, but just not the start that you want to see from Baltimore if you're an Orioles fan. Yankees won at 4-2 tonight over the Kansas City Royals. It was Max Fried improving to 3-0 with a 1.88 ERA. Giants were thrilled not to see Fried over the weekend as he'd faced Detroit on Wednesday before the Giants started that series. Michael Wacha with the loss. Devin Williams saved number 3, and Jason Dominguez had a 3-run double early in that ball game. Toronto Blue Jays won at 6-3 over the Atlanta Braves, who fall to 5-12 on the season. Spencer Schwellenbach takes the loss. Kevin Gossman with the win, former Giants right-hander. A 2-1 record, a 2.49 ERA so far this year for Gossman, who's still throwing that splitter with effectiveness. The Milwaukee Brewers, who the Giants will see next week at Oracle Park, they'll come to town. They're 500 right now after a 5-0 victory over the Detroit Tigers. Tigers have been good so far this season, but Quinn Priester was outstanding in his debut for the Milwaukee Brewers this evening. He was acquired recently in a trade with the Boston Red Sox, former Pirates pitcher. Jack Flaherty takes the loss for Detroit in that ball game. Spencer Torkelson, a factor in that one, as he threw a ball away. It actually deflected off of a runner in that ball game. Kind of a chaotic scene. But if you look up the highlight, it's around for you. And I doubt that you're going to be looking it up. I doubt that many people listening to KNBR at 8:27 on a Tuesday evening are very interested in Brewers and Tigers news. So I'll move along here. Minnesota Twins, 6-3 winners over the New York Mets. Mets fall to 11-6 on the season. Still the best team in the NL East in terms of their record right now. The Twins 6-12 after tonight's win. Bailey Ober got the victory, and Joan Duran with his first save of the season, pumping 102 miles an hour out of the bullpen. The Sacramento A's win at 12-3 over the Chicago White Sox. Jeffrey Springs gets his third win of the season. Sean Burke takes loss number 3 for Chicago. Houston Astros won 2-0 over the St. Louis Cardinals. It was Hunter Brown, the young right-hander. But really the play of that game was Eric Fetty, the Cardinals starting pitcher, made an insane double play where he snagged a line drive that looked like it was about 105, 110 miles an hour off the bat. Snagged that ball, doubled off a guy over at first base, but Fetty didn't pitch well enough to get the win. In fact, he takes the loss as the Cardinals didn't supply him with any run support in that 2-0 final. And final game to tell you about this evening, Texas Rangers won 4-0 over the Los Angeles Angels. Tyler Mahle gets the win in that one for Bruce Bochy's ball club, which is off to a 10-7 start. The Angels now 9-7, 7-6 on the road. They will be back at home this weekend hosting the San Francisco Giants for the final 3 games of this 3-game road trip for the Giants. Speaking of the San Francisco Giants, we'll do more Giants talk on the other side here on KNBR. We'll do NFL draft talk after that in our countdown to John Dickinson this evening with Dubs OT after Sports Phone KNBR. I'm Kerry Crowley. You're listening to KNBR 104.5, 680, the sports leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR, streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, we are back here on Sports Phone KNBR. Kerry Crowley hanging out with you this evening until the start of Dubs OT. Our very own John Dickinson has hosted 82 of these this season, a Dubs OT after every single game that this Warriors team has played this year, and he is back at it tonight as the Warriors are hosting the play-in game against the Memphis Grizzlies over at Chase Center. JD will be coming to you live from Harmonic Brewing after tonight's matchup. A big one over at Chase Center. And as I've said throughout the show, we will not be providing you in-game updates. We know that many of you are out on the road this evening and planning to watch that game on tape delay after the San Francisco Giants, of course, lose 6-4 this afternoon in Philadelphia. A lot of fans waiting to get home and eager to see what the Golden State Warriors do this evening. And, of course, hoping that they can win tonight against Memphis, get that needed rest, and then take off for Houston later on this week and set up a series against the Houston Rockets. So you'll hear plenty more from John Dickinson later on this evening. One of the things that I plan to do tonight is pivot away from San Francisco Giants baseball. Look, there's only so much to be said about a 6-4 April loss to a good Philadelphia Phillies team. I think that this Phillies team will end up being very fine in the National League East. It could be a team that the Giants are contending with a wild card bid for if the New York Mets emerge as the team to beat in that NL East. But I think by the end of the season, it wouldn't shock me if the Phillies are leading that division. It's a really good ball club. Giants won, of course, going away on Monday evening with a comeback win. And then they lose a few missed opportunities tonight, but I don't think it's anything, as I've said, to go big picture on. I don't think you learn anything tonight that you didn't already know about this Giants ball club. So later on this evening, I do plan on talking San Francisco 49ers. This is my last opportunity to do so ahead of the NFL draft next week. I actually don't have any more sports phones over the next 5, 6, 7 days or so. I've got Giants pregame on the weekend, our Giants warm-up show on Saturday and Sunday with the Giants down in Los Angeles against the Angels. Very much looking forward to those shows as the Giants wrap up this 10-game road trip. But this is my final sports phone before the NFL draft, so it's going to be my opportunity to fire off those takes and give you some thoughts on what the 49ers should do at pick number 11, trade up, trade down, stay put, what they should do in each of those scenarios. So plenty to talk about with regard to the San Francisco 49ers later on this evening, but a few more Giants thoughts that I just wanted to get off my chest before the end of the night here. And as I said, look, I don't think that we're going to learn a whole lot big picture from tonight's ball game, a 6-4 loss to the Philadelphia Phillies, where the Giants certainly had opportunities, and Casey Schmidt hitting a deep fly ball in the late innings there against Jose Alvarado put a scare in the Philadelphia Phillies. But I also think that there are some important takeaways. One of those takeaways being Justin Verlander, the Giants starter. He goes 5 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, just 1 strikeout tonight for Verlander. And I was pretty encouraged by Verlander's start the last time out against the Cincinnati Reds, even though he gave up 5 runs against Cincinnati early in that ball game. The 3rd inning was just a disaster for him. I was encouraged by Verlander's ability to kind of bear down and get through the middle innings. The game that could have unraveled for the San Francisco Giants last Wednesday at Oracle Park ended up turning into one of the great comebacks that you will see all season for this team. The Giants were down 5-0 early. They were down 6-1 in the middle innings, and they mounted a massive comeback that was ultimately capped off by Mike Yastrzemski's memorable 2-run shot into McCovey Cove off of Emilio Pagan to salvage the final game of that series. So Verlander's final line wasn't pretty that night, but I thought that ultimately he pitched pretty well that afternoon at Oracle Park, whereas tonight, the final line's okay. I mean, you look at a veteran pitcher in Justin Verlander, 5 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs. It's not what you want to see, but the final line also could have been better, as Elliot Ramos was not able to catch up to a fly ball in the 6th inning that I think probably 90% of Major League Baseball's left fielders catch. I know that the conditions at Citizens Bank Park were terrible this evening. The wind was blowing all around. Look, it wasn't Yankee Stadium on Friday night level bad. I'm not sure I've seen a Major League Baseball stadium or a ball game played in a stadium like that where it was just pouring rain the entire evening and the umpires did nothing to step in, interject, and force the Giants and Yankees to play through that. But tonight, the whipping winds out at Citizens Bank Park. You could see on TV napkins and hot dog wrappers all over the field. And I think there were a lot of times fly balls were drifting back toward the middle of the field, back toward the right side of the field. Elliot Ramos tonight may have thought that fly ball off the bat of JT Realmuto was going to drift back toward left center field. That's how he was shading Realmuto at the start of the at-bat. He didn't get a great jump on that fly ball. I think that we could all tell that he broke back a step or two, which is, what you're taught as an outfielder. And Ramos, not the fastest guy in left field, not the guy with the most range in left field. So you understand he's just trying to make the fundamental play there, doesn't get the best reads, but ultimately not getting a good read in that situation really hurt Elliot Ramos, as that ball had a 1% chance, according to Major League Baseball StatCast, of becoming a hit, and it did become a hit. It became a back-breaking hit for the Philadelphia Phillies against Justin Verlander. Obviously not what you want to see if you were the San Francisco Giants, with Ramos out in left field in the 6th inning. It was a tie ball game at that point. Actually, the Giants were up 3-2 at that point. They'd overcome that early 2-run deficit with, of course, Wilmer Flores putting the Giants ahead with his 21st RBI of the season. The ground out to shortstop Trey Turner, where Jung-Hoo Lee came charging toward home plate. Just did a really great job reading that ball off the bat. Realmuto ties the ball game, and then Alec Boehm gives the Phillies the lead a moment later with the single out to left center field. Again, Ramos was really shaded toward left center field against Boehm, but that ball got down in a hurry. It was a beautiful line drive off the bat of Boehm, who was struggling coming into this series, but has not struggled against Giants pitching so far. So I think that the line would ultimately look very different for Justin Verlander if Ramos was able to catch up to that fly ball. Then the Giants don't necessarily have to go to Randy Rodriguez in that inning. Maybe Verlander's able, to keep the Phillies off the board. The Giants preserve the 3-2 lead, and I think this game looks entirely different if they're able to do that. But because that ball drops, because Ramos puts the Giants in that situation, Verlander has to throw more pitches. The Giants ultimately don't get out of that inning before having to go to the bullpen. It's Randy Rodriguez, the fireman, who comes on. He gets the one out, and Bob Melvin wasn't going to send him back out for the bottom of the 7th inning. The decision that I didn't necessarily like is the Giants are trailing 4-3, and they're trying to keep it a close ball game. But I don't love using Hayden Birdsong on one day's rest when throughout spring training he's been a starting pitcher. I think this was a situation where, you're tied or you're down 1 run. This situation, obviously, the Giants were down 1 run in the 7th inning. I would have preferred to see Bob Melvin go to Lou Trevino or Spencer Bivens in that situation. I think that Birdsong has proven that when he's rested and when he's able to give the Giants multiple innings at a time, he can be an extremely valuable weapon out of the bullpen. And I think that he can be one of the Giants' most important weapons out of their bullpen. So I really would have preferred for the Giants to have a scenario where maybe you save Birdsong for Jordan Hicks. Maybe you save Birdsong for the next time that Robbie Ray goes out to the mound. Instead, they use Birdsong this evening and they burn him in the 7th, and he doesn't, to me, have the same command or same quality of stuff. And I think some of this traces back to the fact that he spent all of spring training as a starter. I think that eventually he will be a starting pitcher in this San Francisco Giants rotation. I've said that a lot throughout the early portion of this season as we fielded phone calls here on Sports Phone. Like, a lot of people are adamant the Giants should have Hayden Birdsong in their rotation right now. I'm not one of them. I know that he has some of the nastiest stuff on this staff. I know that when he's right, he could be one of the top 2 or 3 starting pitchers for the San Francisco Giants, but he's also someone who I would like to see available to the Giants in September, in October, should this team get there. And I think that by preserving his innings, by preserving his pitch count, by making sure that he's not throwing a massive amount of innings in the months of April, May, and June, you will prevent what happened to Jordan Hicks at the beginning of last season, which is Hicks kind of burns out by the middle of the June. The Giants aren't able to get him useful and in line for July, August, and September, and it wipes out a critical piece of your rotation. So I like the approach that they had with Hayden Birdsong coming into tonight. I didn't like the approach of using him in a ball game where you're down 4-3 at the time. I would have understood from Bob Melvin's perspective if the Giants were tied or had even been winning that ball game, and maybe you get to the 9th inning, you get to extra innings, and you want to use a pitcher like Birdsong, who's a high strikeout guy, in the 10th with the ghost runner on second base in that kind of a situation. But in the 7th inning of a game where the Giants are trailing, I think that's an automatic Spencer Bivens situation for this Giants ball club. Bivens didn't pitch in yesterday's ball game. I don't believe he pitched Sunday against the New York Yankees. To me, this is the spot where you go to Bivens, and even if he gets you through that 7th inning, which Birdsong was unable to do. Of course, he gave up the 2-run home run to Bryce Harper to help the Phillies extend that lead and ultimately make a huge difference in the outcome of this ball game. I think you send Bivens back out for the 8th, because if he looked as good in the 8th inning tonight, in the 7th, which is when I believe they should have used him, then you're talking about a situation where you can delay having to bring in, a Birdsong or a Trevino or a Rogers or a Doval, who of course looked good at the end of last night's ball game, the 10-4 win for the San Francisco Giants. So a couple things that I didn't like. I of course don't love Elliot Ramos not being able to catch up to that fly ball in left field. It was one that I think the vast majority of Giants left fielders would have been able to catch. And I say Giants left fielders, I mean Major League left fielders would have been able to catch. And I think that had anyone else been out there, maybe it's Luis Matos, maybe in another situation where the Giants have an expanded roster, or they've got someone on the IL, Grant McCrae's up, he's out in left field, he's someone who could track down that ball. Ramos just not that guy with that range and didn't get a great read on a tough and windy night out in Philadelphia. So that changes the complexion of the late innings, because instead of the Giants holding a 3-2 lead and Justin Verlander getting through 6, he's ultimately yanked after 5 2/3. Bob Melvin goes to the bullpen, and then he has to use pitchers with the Giants having a deficit. So you don't see your best relievers in tonight's ball game, and that ultimately makes a bigger difference in the 8th inning, when the Phillies, Rob Thompson surprisingly goes to his closer. Jose Alvarado has been the best arm out of the Phillies bullpen this season. He has been the standout, the stalwart, and you see why. I mean, he pops on the screen, he's throwing 100 miles an hour from the left side. It's darn near unhittable, and somehow, some way, the Giants hit him in the 8th inning. They looked good against Jose Alvarado in the 8th inning, and so had that been a 4-3 ball game, had you been able to limit the damage and not brought in Birdsong on one day's rest and not given up the home run to Bryce Harper, you're talking about a brand new ball game in the 8th inning when Thompson burns his best reliever and the Giants ultimately score off of Jose Alvarado. I was really impressed by the approach. Obviously, Jung-Hoo Lee with the RBI single, that was a really, really impressive bat. It followed, singles from Ramos and Willy Adames to get on base, and then it would have set up Matt Chapman, and Matt Chapman ultimately popped out in his most disappointing plate appearance of the evening, because he had hits in 3 consecutive bats coming into that frame against Alvarado. He's always done damage against left-handed pitchers. So just a tough situation right there for the San Francisco Giants, because I think that really one pitch swings the outcome of this ball game, and that is not what you want to see. And I mentioned that home run that Birdsong gave up to Bryce Harper. The JT Realmuto ball that plops in front of Ramos down the left field line in front of his dive. I said it had a 1% hit probability according to StatCast. Naked eye probably tells me 5 to 10% hit probability in that situation. Just with where Ramos was shaded and with the wind whipping at Citizens Bank Park tonight, I think that there was a higher likelihood that ball hits the ground. Still should have been caught. With the ball that that Bryce Harper ultimately hit out off of Hayden Birdsong tonight, that was not any sort of a ball in which you think that that's getting out. I think that that would have been a home run in something like 3 out of 30 ballparks, let's get the exact number here for that Bryce Harper home run. I think our producer Jacob is on this. It would have been a home run for Bryce Harper. So in 21 out of 30 ballparks. So it does get out in a lot of scenarios, but batted ball data shows that balls with a similar exit velocity and a similar launch angle, a 45-degree launch angle, are caught 89% of the time, and that one just happened to be launched over the right field wall at Citizens Bank Park, traveling 354 feet. So it wasn't as if Harper mashed that pitch off of Birdsong. It was a beautiful piece of hitting from one of the game's premier sluggers in his ability to get that ball out of the ballpark for the Philadelphia Phillies tonight. So that's all a roundabout way of saying I don't take away much from the big picture tonight. I think that over the course of 162 games, you're going to play some games that you think that you should be in, think that you should win. I certainly think the Giants could have played a better ball game tonight, but I don't look at this 6-4 loss to the Phillies as an indictment of their performance on this road trip. I don't look at this 6-4 loss to the Phillies as a sign of what's to come, because this team has routinely shown that it's resilient. It's routinely shown that it can come back from deficits. In fact, it did so tonight after falling behind 2-0. The Giants took a 3-2 lead after falling behind 6-4 or 6-3. They threatened against Jose Alvarado. They made it 6-4 against one of the toughest left-handers in all of baseball. So big picture, I am not concerned. I still think that they can have a winning road trip, and most importantly, play well over this 17-game in 17-day stretch. I think you need deep starts every time out. Your starters have to reliably go 5 innings. For the San Francisco Giants, that is the big challenge. Robbie Ray coming out to the mound on Wednesday against this Phillies team before, of course, you'll see Jordan Hicks later on this week. So the Giants with an opportunity to still at least split this series or even win this series if they're able to take Wednesday and Thursday against a tough Phillies team. And a tough Phillies lineup that finally hit with runners in scoring position. That wasn't really something that we talked about a whole lot this evening, but the Phillies have been terrible with runners in scoring position, and they got 3 hits with runners in scoring position tonight. So that does it for Philadelphia. On the other side, I'll talk some 49ers football. You've heard about the San Francisco Giants enough this evening. You've heard us dissect this loss plenty already. We're talk San Francisco 49ers football about 9 days out from the NFL draft. So we will do that on the other side. I am Kerry Crowley. The show is Sports Zone KNBR. You're listening to KNBR 104.5, 680, the sports leader.
This is where we feed the faithful. Sports Phone, KNBR. Streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
We are back here on Sports Phone KNBR. Kerry Crowley hanging out with you until the start of Dubs OT this evening. A massive clash over at Chase Center right now. Warriors, Grizzlies going at it with a playoff berth on the line. The winner advances to Sunday's matchup against the second-seeded Houston Rockets. The loser has to play on Friday evening. Not a situation either of these teams want. And later on tonight, you'll be able to catch our Warriors postgame show, Dubs OT, with John Dickinson. He's done 82 Dubs OTs this season. The man never takes a day off, so of course, JD has got you this evening after things wrap up over at Chase Center. Folks hope that the Warriors fans and their supporters are in a great mood, as this is a Warriors team that could really use the benefit of some extra rest. I won't provide any in-game updates really until the final minutes as we prepare our transition for John Dickinson. Don't want to give too much away, of course. I know that many of you, if you're driving home right now, probably got the game taped. We hear that all the time from you on the text line, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I will toward the end of this evening's show when we're getting ready for the handoff and JD's headed over to Harmonic Brewing to get all set up this evening. I will read out a few stats and give you some initial takeaways from this Warriors matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies. So with that, I did want to spend much of tonight talking about next week's NFL draft, in part because this is actually my last sports phone before the start of the NFL draft. We've done so many sports phones since the 49ers finished their 6-11 season, devoted almost exclusively to what the 49ers are going to do with pick number 11, how they're going to spend all their top 100 picks this year. Should they trade up? Should they trade down? What should they do in the first round of the NFL draft? That I have actually lost track, and I've changed my opinion so many times. I've come up with, several different mocks. We did a 7-round mock for the 49ers a few weeks ago here on Sports Phone. It's been a ton of fun, and I've appreciated everyone's input, but this is the last time. And so I wanted to spend a decent chunk of this evening talking about what the 49ers should do in the first round, kind of the direction that I see the 49ers going in the first round. After a 6-11 season, there is so much riding on this year's NFL draft. You don't have to take it from me. You've listened to John Lynch talk about the 49ers approach this offseason, a reset for this roster after the 49ers had spent so much money on keeping premium talent in the building down in Santa Clara in recent off seasons. Jed York making sure that this 49ers team is going to have the ability to pay Brock Purdy this offseason. Kyle Shanahan ensuring that they will get some new, young, and fresh talent through the draft. And look, there's going to be a ton of competition, regardless of who the 49ers take. I think that it's going to be very difficult for this team to get back to the level of an NFC Championship caliber team, a Super Bowl caliber team. But if they hit on, say, 6, 7, 8 of their draft picks this year, 49ers could be right back in it. And so I think that is a tall ask. You almost never hear of teams hitting on that many draft picks, but the Los Angeles Rams are a classic example of a team that really hasn't fallen off significantly during the Sean McVay era and really over the course of the last decade, because even if they've been drafting toward the middle of the first round or back end of the first round, the Rams have found ways to find productive players. And I look at last year's draft for the San Francisco 49ers. I look at the right guard selection in the 3rd round in Dominic Pooney. I look at the 4th round where they got Isaac Guerendo, the running back, and of course Malik Mustafa, the safety out of Wake Forest, who I think was a 5th-year senior when the 49ers took him. They found productive contributors up and down the draft. And look, this is a 49ers franchise that desperately needs to hit on early draft picks, desperately needs to take advantage of the opportunity to pick in the top 15 in the first round. And look, if they don't, it's okay, trade back, but at the very least, get an immediate impact contributor in the first round this year and understand that your roster, your building, your sustainable success for the future is going to be dependent and hinge on how many productive players, how many NFL caliber starters can you get in this year's draft. A huge change for the San Francisco 49ers, obviously on the defensive side of the ball, firing Nick Sorensen this offseason, bringing in Robert Saleh, who was fired as the head coach of the New York Jets. Obviously, we all know the connection to Saleh. He was with the 49ers in 2019 when the team locked up the 1 seed in the NFC West and went to the Super Bowl. And one of the things that I took away from that roster was, Robert Saleh won with some younger players on that defense. Yes, they had some veterans. Yes, they had guys like Richard Sherman and DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead, but also Nick Bosa was still very early in his career, coming off of the ACL injury. Dre Greenlaw with the hit at the goal line up in Seattle, former 49er, now off to the Denver Broncos. He was a 5th-round draft pick, playing as a rookie alongside Fred Warner that season. Azeez Al-Shire was, either a 7th-round draft pick or undrafted. He was very late, and he ultimately played an important role for the 49ers. And so I think there will be opportunities on Robert Saleh's defense. In fact, I know there will be opportunities on Robert Saleh's defense for some of the young players the 49ers take in the early rounds to make immediate contributions for this team, because you look at this 49ers depth chart right now, and it is far less impressive than it's been in each of the last few seasons. We're talking about a 49ers team that finished, 29th in run defense last year. They also lost Leonard Floyd. They lost a number of players on the defensive side of the football that they just let walk. And so they're ready to replenish this defensive front. They're ready to attack this draft. And it's why I am convinced that with pick number 11, or wherever the 49ers ultimately select in the first round, they have to find an immediate impact contributor on either the defensive line, interior, or opposite Nick Bosa as a pass rusher. It is imperative that the 49ers improve their athleticism up front, improve their ability to stop the run up front, and also give this team another option for someone who can reliably sack the quarterback. We know that Nick Bosa can put pressure on every quarterback in the NFC. We know that Nick Bosa can get after the quarterback with the best of him, even if he's not living up to that contract right now, even if he's maybe, the 6th or 7th or 8th best defensive end in the NFL and not a top 3 guy at this current moment in time. Nick Bosa is still someone who I think can impact the game at an elite level, and I think the 49ers are banking on that. It's one of the reasons that they paid him so much a few years ago, and one of the reasons that they're confident in him going into this season being the anchor of their defensive line group. And so, whether they go defensive end or defensive tackle at pick number 11, or if they trade that pick, move down or up, I think finding someone who can help Nick Bosa and giving him the opportunity to get after the quarterback without the entire offensive line focused on his every move is going to be critical for the 49ers and ultimately Robert Saleh's success as the defensive coordinator in 2025. So what I wanted to do here is kind of dive into some of the defensive linemen and defensive ends and give you some thoughts about what I think the 49ers should do in various situations. One of my favorite draft guides is Dane Brugler. He puts out The Beast for The Athletic. And I talked about this last week, looking at some of my favorite players who were covered in The Beast, but he ranks defensive tackles and ranks defensive ends, hands out grades for both of these positions, and, looks at the depth overall in these classes and looks at, where the 49ers and, all 31 other NFL teams could turn at any given pick. And so as he started to rank defensive tackles, it was no surprise to me that Mason Graham was the highest rated defensive tackle, 3rd-year player coming out of the University of Michigan. And I think that there's probably an 80-90% chance that Mason Graham is off the board by the time the 49ers pick at number 11, but it wouldn't shock me if Mason Graham somehow fell to the San Francisco 49ers at pick number 11. And the reason I say this is because of the situation that's now transpired down in New Orleans with Derek Carr, set to potentially undergo shoulder surgery. The Saints are going to be in the market for a quarterback in the top 10. Maybe there are 2 or 3 teams that ultimately decide we need to go quarterback early. And it's not just the Tennessee Titans taking Cam Ward number 1 overall. Maybe it's Shadur Sanders going 3rd overall to the New York Giants, or the Giants taking Abdul Carter with that 3rd overall pick, and Shadur Sanders slipping down and being taken in the top 10 by the New Orleans Saints with pick number 9. If that happens, if 2 quarterbacks go in the top 10, or maybe 3 quarterbacks, maybe it's Jackson Dart or Tyler Shugg, I don't know, but if at least 2 quarterbacks come off the board, the likelihood that Graham slips down this draft board, I think, increases significantly. One of the wild cards here is the New York Jets, and new head coach Aaron Glenn are reportedly very interested in Mason Graham. That could be his ultimate landing spot in the top 10. But if he does not go there, I think the 49ers should and will take Mason Graham with pick number 11 if he's on the board, because he is quite simply the most productive defensive tackle in this draft. You're looking at someone who's got very short arms. Like, there are questions about Mason Graham and his physicality. He was playing at, I think, 320 last year at Michigan was his listed weight. He showed up to the NFL Combine at 296 or 298, listed in Dane Brugler's draft guide at 306. And in all likelihood, he's a top 10 player in this draft. But if he somehow slips to number 11, I think the 49ers are getting an incredible combination of production, both against the run and against the pass. He's someone who can play 2 gaps at a time, which is, incredible for this 49ers defensive front, and someone who is a true 3-down player. There are no questions as to whether Graham will need to come off the field like there are with some of the players behind him in this draft. Graham, to me, would be the ideal scenario for the 49ers at number 11. And let's say he slips to 8 or 9. I wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers felt so compelled to trade one of their mid-round draft picks and go up and get Mason Graham, move up to 8 with Carolina, or move up to 9 with New Orleans, who may not feel comfortable taking Shadur Sanders that early and wants to add another draft pick so they can add some help for him on the outside at the receiver position in the middle rounds. Maybe the 49ers execute that type of a trade. But in all likelihood, like I said, Mason Graham is off the board. So let's look at some of the other defensive tackles available. If you've listened to Niners Nightly, I think Larry Krueger does an absolutely incredible job breaking the 49ers down, breaking these draft picks down from the scouting perspective, from the lens that Krueger watches the game of football with. I really respect his perspective, and he is down on Derek Harmon coming out of the University of Oregon. He thinks that Harmon is not a run stuffer, and while I agree with the fact that Harmon is not an elite run stuffer, I think that Derek Harmon has the combination the 49ers could look for inside. He's 6 feet tall. He's someone who, I think can really get after the quarterback in passing down situations. I think that, he's 6'5". He's not 6 feet tall, but he's 6'5", can really get after the quarterback in passing down situations, was a B-gap player for the Oregon Ducks. And here's kind of the key that I think makes Harmon someone who's on the 49ers radar at 11. It might be a stretch at number 11. I don't think he would be taken before the 11th overall pick, which means that Harmon would still be available at that spot for the San Francisco 49ers. But I think, a lot of people grade him as a mid to late first-round player. Dane Brugler of The Athletic said he's a first or second-round grade for him. In an ideal scenario, if Mason Graham is off the board and the 49ers are determined to take a defensive tackle, you would actually trade back from pick number 11. The challenge is, I don't think there are other teams that are gunning to trade up to that spot. Maybe if Teteroa McMillan is on the board at that point from the University of Arizona and a team really wants a wide receiver, or there's a few offensive tackles that I could see slipping out of the top 10 and being coveted. I still think that Armand Membu will go top 10. Will Campbell, of course, out of LSU should be the first offensive tackle taken. Maybe Josh Simmons out of Ohio State is the guy who a team would trade up to number 11 for. But again, the 49ers probably wouldn't want to move outside the top 15 if they're determined to take a defensive tackle, because if they didn't somehow land Derek Harmon, then I think the talent level at the defensive tackle position really starts to slip off. Kenneth Grant is kind of next on the board. Walter Nolan, who I really like, but might be more of an early second-round pick out of Ole Miss, another guy who can really get after the quarterback in passing down situations, but there's questions as to how much Nolan can stop the run coming out of Ole Miss. He could be someone the 49ers look at, but I think if Derek Harmon is the pick at number 11, I would feel solid about that for the San Francisco 49ers. It might be an overdraft. It might be a situation where you probably could have gotten him at 15 or 17, but the reality is the 49ers can't afford to take too many chances. This is a team that has a dearth of talent on the defensive line, must address a critical position, and there might be better overall players on the board, but Harmon is someone who I think gives the 49ers someone else who can get after the passer, not unlike Eric Armstead, a former Oregon Duck, did when he was with the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think Harmon can slide outside as easily as Armstead did, but I do think that he can get after the passer from the inside. The other wild card there, I mentioned him before, but Walter Nolan. I think that if the 49ers are going to trade back and try to pick up another selection, maybe in the 70s, 80s, 90s of this year's draft, maybe Walter Nolan is the guy. If the 49ers trade back as far as the 20th overall pick, 25th overall pick, he could be someone who I could see the 49ers falling in love with, because the motor in terms of getting after the quarterback on passing downs is pretty good. Like I said, questions about Walter Nolan's ability to stop the run, but there are questions about pretty much every defensive tackle in this draft's ability to stop the run. So that's a quick look at where the 49ers are looking in terms of their defensive tackles. And I think that in most scenarios, Mason Graham is off the board. If not, he could be the pick. I could also see some situations where trading down might make a lot of sense for the San Francisco 49ers. As far as edge rushers go, if the 49ers decide that edge is more important than going defensive tackle in the first round, totally and completely understand that. I think that Abdul Carter will be off the board by the time the 49ers are making their selection. I think that Jalen Walker Walker out of the University of Georgia is probably a top 10 pick. It would probably surprise me if Walker fell below the Carolina Panthers at the 8th overall selection. If that happens, understanding New Orleans' need for a quarterback, maybe there's a scenario where Walker falls to the San Francisco 49ers, but I'm not even so sure that Jalen Walker is the best defensive end or pass rusher coming out of the University of Georgia this year. My buddies Dieter Kurtenbach and Jake Hutchinson, who do an incredible job with their YouTube show, Hutch and Dieter, they put together this draft guide, this comprehensive NFL draft guide, where they looked at their favorite players, their top 150 for each of them. They graded out pretty much every top draft pick in this year's class. And a guy who may be undervalued by other draft analysts, Michael Williams, coming out of the University of Georgia, he could very much be on the board and in play for the 49ers at pick number 11. I think that if Williams is available, and if you're deciding between, say, Derek Harmon on the interior and Williams on the exterior as a pass rusher, Williams would be the guy. In reading Hutch's draft report, I noticed that he said that Williams is the ultimate motor player. I mean, this is someone who is relentless in his ability to get after the passer. This is someone who never stops. And look, the production wasn't all that incredible at the University of Georgia, but they rotate defensive linemen, they rotate defensive ends with regularity. They've got a very specific scheme there in what they like to do at Georgia, and I think that Williams is someone who, based on what I read from Dieter and Hutch, and based on the way that they were speaking about him on their podcast, I think that Williams could be a fantastic fit for the 49ers at pick number 11, and I think that if Abdul Carter and Jalen Walker are the first two defensive ends off the board, Michael Williams should be the 49ers pick at number 11, as long as Mason Graham's already off the board. Those two other players in Carter and Walker are off the board. He just seems to me like he would be the perfect fit without requiring a trade up, without requiring a trade back. Dave Brugler of The Athletic actually has Shamar Stewart of Texas A&M ranked ahead of Michael Williams. He has Mike Green of Marshall ranked ahead of Michael Williams. I don't like Stewart. I think that he is someone who didn't produce at the college level. He never had more than 1.5 sacks in any of his seasons in College Station. It's way too big of a risk to take someone who didn't produce at the college level and just expect that their body type and their physicality and athleticism is going to lead to some sort of transformation in the NFL. I think of Stewart as a project type player, and I think of the 49ers as a team coming off a 6-11 season that can't afford a project, especially on the defensive line or at defensive end. So that's the way I look at kind of the top overall picks there. If the 49ers are going to go with a defensive tackle, I like Derek Harmon at number 11. I know that Larry Krueger doesn't. He's more of a Walter Nolan guy. I like Michael Williams coming out of Georgia as an edge rusher. If Jalen Walker were to fall to the 49ers, I think that could be a decent gamble for this team. But nevertheless, I have reiterated this from the start. I think the San Francisco 49ers are in a position to where their defensive line finished 29th in run stuffing last year. And this is a franchise that has always been at its best when it's had the ability to stop the run and force teams to beat it through the air. I think that they've got the pieces in the defensive backfield led by Diamador Lenore to be able to contain opponents. I think that Fred Warner back at the linebacker position, both against the run and against the pass, he's elite. He's a future Hall of Fame type player in my book, and I think that addressing the front line of this defensive unit is the most imperative thing that the 49ers can do. So outside of picking a defensive tackle or defensive end with their first overall selection, 49ers might go offensive tackle, particularly if they don't think that Trent Williams is going to be around for much longer. Maybe that pick is Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. Maybe if Armand Membu slides all the way to number 11 overall, they could take Membu. I don't see that happening based on how productive he was at the NFL Combine, how many eyes he opened there. But I just think that you're going to see Will Campbell and Membu come off the board. You are in all likelihood going to see Abdul Carter come off the board early, and then you're going to see some surprising players. Ashton Janty, the running back out of Boise State, he could go. If Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders both go, maybe Jackson Dart slides in the top 10 in an outlandish scenario where the New Orleans Saints feel they really have to rush to pick a quarterback at number 9. Maybe that ultimately benefits the 49ers, and one of those great players in a Mason Graham or in a Michael Williams falls in the 49ers' hands, and they don't ultimately take Derek Harmon, who I think would be my betting favorite to be the pick at number 11, just because we understand the relationship the 49ers have with the University of Oregon, their past history with defensive linemen coming out of Oregon with John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, prioritizing those type of guys. We know that we know that Lynch loves the West Coast. The 49ers sent a massive contingent up to Eugene for the Ducks Pro Day, and they were looking at a number of different guys. Look, there's other players on the defensive side of the football. Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle who could go around the middle rounds, 3rd, 4th round. I think that he's someone who the 49ers would have some interest in. You look at Jeffrey Bassa, a linebacker who the 49ers could very well be interested in the middle rounds. There's a ton of players on the defensive side of the ball up at Oregon that I think the 49ers could select. I think that it all starts, though, with Derek Harmon, the premier player on that Ducks defense, who, again, others don't like his run-stuffing ability. I get that. I also think that he's such a big body on the interior, and his ability to get after the pass would give the 49ers so much that I would be very comfortable with that pick being the guy that the 49ers ultimately go to at number 11. So when we come back, I'll take a look at some of the local guys on the 49ers draft board. They hosted a local pro day last week. Some interesting players coming out of Cal, Stanford, San Jose State, who I think could all be fits for this 49ers team as we continue our countdown to Dubs OT this evening. Again, no updates right now. We will keep those of you who want to watch that game on tape delay later. We will keep you in the darkness. I will say, as soon as this game finishes, though, we will get things over to John Dickinson over at Harmonic Brewing. He will do Dubs OT this evening. I know he's very much looking forward to breaking down tonight's pivotal matchup in the play-in against the Memphis Grizzlies with you later on. I'm Kerry Crowley. The show is Sports Phone KNBR. When we come back, a little more NFL draft talk on the other side here on KNBR 104.5, 680, the sports leader.
This is where we feed the faithful. Sports Phone, KNBR. Streaming live at twitch.tv/the Sports Leader.
We are back here on Sports Phone KNBR. Kerry Crowley hanging out with you late this evening until the start of Dubs OT. We've done 82 of these all season long, and we will get one more after tonight's play-in game between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. As promised, no updates. I know many of you are out on the roads taping the game. We've heard from you on the text line. At the conclusion of tonight's game is John Dickinson, our Dubs OT host. You hear him all the time here on KNBR. As he prepares to go over to Harmonic Brewing and set up shop for this evening's show, I will run down the stats, I will give you the final score, and I will prepare you for the start of JD's show as he breaks down a pivotal clash between the 7th-seeded Golden State Warriors, the 8th-seeded Memphis Grizzlies. This year, play-in not necessarily necessary. Good turn of phrase there. But it is a part of the NBA and the new postseason format that was implemented a few years ago. Look, they want 20 of 30 teams apparently to have a shot as the play-in expands things out to the 7-10 tournament, which I personally hate. I think that you earn your way in through the regular season. I think the regular season is discounted a little bit, especially when you've got teams like the Sacramento Kings and Dallas Mavericks fighting it out against teams like the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies, who earned their way in with more victories this season. But the NBA has decided that this is in the best interest of the product, and there's no change in their minds now. How far are we from having all 30 teams in the postseason? How far are we from, expanding Major League Baseball's playoffs to including more than 50% of the teams, expanding the NFL playoffs to include 50% of the teams? It's 14 of the 32 get in right now. I don't know, but I don't necessarily love it. I think that the regular season should mean something, particularly in these sports with extremely long and drawn-out seasons like Major League Baseball. I think a contracted playoff field actually works best because you've ultimately got 162 games to sort out who the best teams are. And the regular season should matter. In the NBA, it's 82 games. It's long. I think Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Draymond Green all agree that it's a really difficult grind, and then to have things come down to a one, or if the Warriors lose, a 2-game scenario where you've got a play-in stretch to make the postseason, it just doesn't feel right to me. And I guess the critics of that would say, well, if you take care of business, if you win, if you defend home court, you don't have to worry about that. But nevertheless, didn't you defend home court during the season? Didn't you go 24-17 at Chase Center over 41 games? Didn't you figure out ways to navigate a tough 82-game schedule where your squad was laden with injuries, where you had to go out and make a blockbuster trade and then ultimately improve your team to force your way into the playoff picture yet again? Sure. So I just don't know. I think that, in sports, you're always looking at situations that are influenced by business models, by revenue, and I think that the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball are all making more money off of these expanded playoff fields. I think that you see it in Major League Baseball with the wild card series. I don't necessarily love the series. I used to like the wild card, and in fact, sometimes I like that one-game wild card playoff where the team has to fight their way in. But ultimately, I don't love a scenario where you've got a team that wins 100-plus games in Major League Baseball going up against a team that won a wild card series after having won about 86 games, and then having the opportunity to line up their pitching to knock you off. I think that you reward the teams that were best from April to September by having them have a better shot in the month of October. In the NBA, I think you reward the teams that were great from October to the beginning of April, and you kind of wipe out these games that are taking place over the course of this week. But the NBA is always looking for additional programming, and when you've got additional programming questions, it means you need additional games, and the league has apparently solved it. So that's it for me on that front. I wanted to conclude some draft talk this evening. I did a big, long segment just a few minutes ago about why I think the 49ers ought to go defensive line and defensive end in the first round. I think that if the 49ers are going to keep their number 11 overall pick, it's imperative that they get some help for Nick Bosa, whether that's on the interior or whether it's a pass rusher to bookend Nick Bosa, like a Michael Williams out of the University of Georgia. If they go interior, maybe Mason Graham falls to them in a fortuitous scenario. In all likelihood, could be someone like a Derek Harmon, maybe a trade back for a Walter Nolan scenario. Talked about all of that. But one more thing that I wanted to do, just to catch you up on everything going on around the San Francisco 49ers, is last week I didn't get the chance to talk about the local pro day that the 49ers held down in Santa Clara at headquarters, where they bring in a bunch of Cal, Stanford, San Jose State players, as well as college players from around the country who grew up and played high school ball right here in the Bay Area. I think this is one of the very best traditions that NFL teams have. I am so happy that the 49ers do this and give the local guys an opportunity to shine in front of the local evaluators. Look, in all likelihood, very few, if any, of these players are going to be drafted by the 49ers. Very few, if any, of these players are going to be drafted at all, but at least you give them an opportunity to extend their careers, open up the eyes of a local scout, and potentially make a practice squad, potentially get invited to rookie OTAs, potentially start a career and make a difference in some way or another at the NFL level. And so I think that this is one of the best traditions. I love the 49ers did it. And there were 3 players that really stood out from the list that the 49ers invited to HQ in Santa Clara last week, including the top overall player who didn't work out in Santa Clara, but did, according to 49ers beat reporters, spend a long time talking with 49ers general manager John Lynch. And that was Stanford wide receiver Alec Eomanor, who put up a massive game just a few years ago against Travis Hunter, where I think he broke the school record for receiving yards for the Cardinals, something like 290 plus receiving yards for Stanford, with more than 200 coming in one half of play. It was against Colorado, and most of those yards were racked up against the guy who's going to be a top 5 overall pick in all likelihood, who's going to, in all likelihood, play cornerback at the NFL level and is projected by many to be an all-pro talent. Alec Eomanor is not someone who is foreseen as, a top 2-round draft pick, maybe even a 3rd-round draft pick would be a stretch for Eomanor, but he has the talent, I think, to potentially help the 49ers, in part because he's someone who blocks really well. He's got, good speed on the outside, a 4.44 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine, which ranked around the 50th percentile for wide receivers. And I think that he's someone who fits into the ethos of what the 49ers are trying to accomplish on the offensive side of the ball. Look, he is, not probably one of the top 10 wide receivers in this year's NFL draft, but the 21-year-old, I always thought, in watching him at Stanford, kind of fits into the possession mold, maybe a bit of a bigger Jawan Jennings, and someone who I think can also run some deep routes for the San Francisco 49ers. He had well over 1,000 yards this season and 6 touchdowns in each of his last few seasons. I think that he is someone who proved himself against Travis Hunter, and he is someone who, in the right scenario, in the right offense, could be a good deep threat as well as a possession guy, someone who I think can play on the exterior for the 49ers out at the X position or the Z position and help this football team. Maybe taking him in the 3rd round be a stretch for me. I think I like Alec Eomanor 4th if the 49ers were to come to that, but I could absolutely see him with the Stanford connection being someone who John Lynch takes a good, long, hard look at. The other wide receiver who I really like, and this is actually kind of a draft crush for me, is I got the chance to watch a little bit of Nick Nash play for San Jose State toward the end of last season. Caught a few Spartans games on television, and this is someone who won All-America honors at the wide receiver position for San Jose State with just prolific numbers. And I put a lot more stock in college production than most people do, than most NFL scouts do. It's one of the reasons that I'm not an NFL scout, because I've always believed, hey, you put up at the college level, you should get a shot to play in the NFL. You should go see what you can do against the premier talents. You look at draft boards this year. In the last segment, I was talking about Shamar Stewart, who's widely considered a 1st-round draft pick at the defensive end position. Stewart never had more than 1.5 sacks in a season at Texas A&M, which to me, how can you take a risk, a 1st-round draft pick on a guy who has no track record of college production? Whereas Nick Nash down at San Jose State, he was catching 10-plus balls every game, and he's marked down for the lack of elite speed, but he led the FBS in catches, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. And he's probably more of a slot player, a possession guy, but to me, he can go over the middle of the field and he can make some tough catches in this Kyle Shanahan offense. And I actually think that an offense where maybe speed isn't the best judge of how you can contribute to this team, I think there could be a role for Nick Nash. If the 49ers are going to look at him in the 5th or the 6th round, which is kind of where he's projected to go, there have been plenty of possession receivers who didn't have, great numbers at the college level or in the NFL who proved that they could be of great value in the postseason, in critical scenarios, on 3rd downs when a quarterback needs to check it down and needs to just find someone who can get open against man coverage. I think Nick Nash proved that he get open against man coverage at San Jose State, which is one of the issues the 49ers had throughout last season. This is someone who had 104 catches, 16 touchdown catches during the 2024 campaign for San Jose State, and I just thought the world of the way that he contributed to the Spartans offense. Former quarterback, I love that. I think that he played quarterback his freshman year at San Jose State, and anytime you see the offense through a quarterback's lens, it's going to give you a better opportunity to contribute at a different position. I think that Kyle Shanahan views guys who played the quarterback position more favorably, so it wouldn't shock me If the 49ers ultimately passed on A.O. Minor in the third or the fourth round out of Stanford, and if they took a local guy, go with Nick Nash, the wide receiver who could play some slot for this team in the fifth or the sixth round out of San Jose State, I would like that. I think that it would be a solid pick, and I think that he'd had the opportunity to contribute very early in his NFL career. I don't think it would be a steep learning curve for Nick Nash because it's not athleticism that he needs to refine or anything like that. He is kind of a finished product as an athlete. He just needs to be given the opportunity to go make some plays on an NFL field and see if he has the ability to do so against those premium talents that he will face in the NFL that he wasn't necessarily facing against San Jose State's competition. The third player that I wanted to mention, just because he went to my high school, St. Ignatius, out in the Sunset District, Teddy Buchanan, linebacker who, of course, played much of his college career at UC Davis before transitioning to the FBS level to play at Cal, was outstanding at Cal last season and now projected by Dan Brugler of The Athletic as a potential fifth-round draft pick. And the reason that I like this is because he was also, like Nick Nash, a former quarterback. He played quarterback in high school and early in his college career. He ends up transitioning to the defensive side of the ball. 6'2", 233 pounds, was great last season for Cal, led the Bears in tackles and tackles for loss, really understands what an offense is trying to do. A completely different player on the defensive side of the ball from Draymond Green, but someone who I think, or excuse me, Draymond Green, Dre Greenlaw, that's the name. I'm paying close attention to what the Warriors are doing right now against the Memphis Grizzlies. A completely different defensive player than Dre Greenlaw, a completely different style, not nearly as ferocious of a hitter and a tackler, but I think someone who understands the game extremely well, very cerebral player, and I think could fit nicely along Fred Warner. He spoke to 49ers reporters down at the Santa Clara Pro Day as the 49ers hosted local prospects, and Buchanan talked about how, look, he idolizes Fred Warner. He grew up watching Patrick Willis. He had the opportunity to catch up with Pat Willis, and to me, someone who understands the traditions of the franchise, someone who sees the game from the quarterback's perspective on the defensive side of the field, that could be very, very valuable for the San Francisco 49ers team. And so, of the three players that I mentioned, Alec A.O. Minor, Nick Nash, Teddy Buchanan, Buchanan is my personal favorite, not just because we share the same high school, but because he played quarterback and then transitioned over the defensive side of the ball. I think that that will serve him well. I think that if the 49ers were to take the chance on Buchanan in the fifth or the sixth round, he could become kind of an instant impact player for a team that, of course, was relying on Devondre Campbell last season. We saw how far that got them, that has lost Dre Greenlaw in free agency to Denver Broncos, that needs someone to be able to play alongside Fred Warner, needs someone who understands the scheme, understands the game well. And while Buchanan may be lacking a little bit in the athleticism department, I think having those former quarterback instincts could really help in Robert Saleh's scheme, and Fred Warner can make up for whatever Teddy Buchanan is missing in terms of his skill set. So that's it on the NFL draft this evening. I promised I would try to keep things limited, but this is the last time I have the opportunity to talk about the draft before next week. We've got a huge KNBR draft bonanza next week, as I know that the guys from Dirty Work, Marcus Boucher as well, will be down at some event in San Jose. I'm sure that on their respective shows, they'll be able to tell you all about it. As for me, I'm transitioning to doing more Giants baseball talk on the weekends here on KNBR. We have our extended Giants warm-up pregame shows on Saturdays and Sundays. We've got extra innings with Bill Lasky on Saturdays and Sundays after every Giants baseball game. And over the next few weeks, you'll hear me a lot more talking about Giants baseball. This was just my last opportunity to talk 49ers football. So I've got my takes on the books. 49ers first round draft pick. Got to be defensive front, got to be defensive lineman or defensive end. Late round, I love the local guys. Alec A.O. Minor, maybe a stretch in the third or fourth round for me. I like Nick Nash as a possession receiver. And then, of course, Teddy Buchanan out of Cal, out of St. Ignatius in the Sunset, someone who I would love to see the 49ers have playing alongside Fred Warner as a rookie. When we come back, we'll set a few more things up for John Dickinson. Dubs OT on the way as we get you set for Dubs OT after this clash against the Memphis Grizzlies concludes over at Chase Center. I am Kerry Crowley. The show is Sports Phone KNBR. You are listening to KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
We want your reaction, so give us a ring or blow up the text line at 415-808-KNBR. This is Sports Phone KNBR, streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
Kerry Crowley back here on Sports Phone KNBR, folks. As you well know, the Warriors game is not yet over, which means Dubs OT cannot yet start, which means we're going to do a little KNBR replay. We're going to send things over to our man Dwayne Kuiper in just a moment. He was on with Murph and Marcus this morning, catching up on last night's Giants game and how the Giants have performed on this road trip so far. And when we come back, or when I cut in, it means it'll be time for John Dickinson to start Dubs OT. You're listening to KNBR 104.5, 680, the Sports Leader. Here is Dwayne Kuiper.
There's no question we've got the best in the booth. That's why we all mimic his call. Time for Murph and Marcus to catch up with Kite on KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM.
All right, it is sponsored by our show, Murph and Marcus, sponsored by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. There's no way Dwayne made a 7:45 tea time on his Tuesday hit with us. Dwayne, did you make a 7:45 tea time on your Tuesday hit with us? Good morning.
So here's the choice I have to make. Not play golf just because of this show, or to say the hell with this show and make a tea time.
You got to be telling me, this is the only tea time available on a Tuesday in April. I'm dubious.
Well, at this course, yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not playing in Muni, Murph.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, we'll get you in and out then. Well, here's the good news, is that A, we won't make you miss your tea time, and B, we're now on a roll where you're coming on after wins, my friend. You used to come on after losses. Remember, we all empathized?
Everybody's coming on after wins.
It's Win Tuesday. All right, Dwayne, you tell me. It's been a week since we saw you. They came back against the Reds on Wednesday. They won 2 out of 3 in Yankee Stadium. Jung-Hoo Lee went off. And then last night they fell down 3-0 and came back and won 10-4. What's going on?
Well, it seems like it's a different guy that does something really good, now almost every series, certainly, and sometimes every game. But yet, we're still not hearing a lot from the big guys in the middle of the lineup. The Ramos, Chapman, Thomas hit a home run yesterday. So it's been the other guys. Jung-Hoo Lee last night. It was Tyler Fitzgerald. Wilmer, of course, is blowing everybody away. So really, it's been up and down. It's kind of like to use the golf where you play in these scrambles, right? And you ham and egg it, right? Somebody does something different every hole to help you win the hole, and that's what they're doing. And then you combine that with really good starting pitching and a really terrific bullpen, And you got yourself a really nice record in a really, really tough division where nobody seems to be going away except the Rockies. It would be nice if maybe the Padres lost the game, even at home. That would be nice. But I don't want to get ahead of myself and start worrying about other teams. Giants are doing what they have to do, worry about themselves, and just keep playing good baseball.
Yeah, and last night they put up 10 runs against the Phillies with Jung-Hoo Lee going 0 for 5. And it's funny, Kai, because we were talking about this morning, after Jung-Hoo Lee put the team on his back this weekend at Yankee Stadium, they found other ways to get the job done. As you mentioned, Willie Adames with his first home run in a Giants uniform. But what were your thoughts on Jung-Hoo Lee the weekend that he had on that stage out at Yankee Stadium?
Well, if you're going to introduce yourself to the league, and I know he played 35 games last year, but if you're going to reintroduce yourself, then do it in New York. Either do it, against the Mets, but if you really want to do it at Yankee Stadium, and that's what he did. All of a sudden, this guy is now recognized, all over the baseball world, because all you have to do is turn on, ESPN, turn on the MLB Network, turn on here, turn on there, and it's usually about the Yankees first. Well, if you can do some things to beat the Yankees, including knock out 3 home runs, then you're going to get noticed, and he's noticed right now. And look, he goes 0 for 5, but he's still going to do some things, including play defense, that he's going to help you win a game. You can't help but like the guy. He's got a smile all the time. He looks like he's having fun. He looks like he loves the game. He looks like he loves his teammates. And all of that, makes Giants fans extremely happy because that's what you look for in a player. And Adames is the same way. Fun, smile. Yeah, I'm hitting under 200, but you know what? That's not going to keep me from having a good time. And that's what these guys are doing.
Dwayne Kuiper on the Yuma guest line. Giants 10, Phillies 4. They were down 3-0 in the first inning. Didn't matter. They came back and won. They're 12-4. They go at it today, 3:45. Justin Verlander against Jesus Luzardo. Verlander looking for his first win as a Giant. 2:45 pregame on KNBR. Kuip, not to make this, we're going to try. It's hard. We talk 4 hours a day, so not to bury the Farhan regime. I mean, Farhan did a lot of great things, including not signing Chris Bryant, who's now having a terrible time in Colorado, and finding Mike Yastrzemski and Lamont Wade, all that stuff. All that said, that's a preface to the question that Tyler Fitzgerald went there last night in his quotes. He said, man, I'm just glad these guys stuck with me. I think last year I might have been sent down. We were remarking it was an interesting comment. What did you make of it?
Well, I think everybody on that roster feels like, for a while, if you didn't perform, they were just going to bring somebody else in. And I think Buster's theory is let's be a little bit more patient before we start, sending guys back and forth. Look, Interstate 80 has been busy between Sacramento and San Francisco. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But what I think Buster's theory is, well, what does it do to the attitude of the player, and what does it do to the attitude of the roster, where they're constantly afraid that they might get sent down? And I think that's probably what has changed the most. Buster's been in that clubhouse. He's watched these young guys that are worried so much about how long am I going to be here? If I have a bad day, am I going to be gone? And I don't think any of those guys now have to worry about that. But I agree with you. Look, Farhan did some good things. We're talking about Jung-Hoo Lee. It was under him that they signed him. So, a lot of things that Farhan did I didn't agree with, but there were certainly some good things that he did do.
Yeah, and it looked like the patience paid off yesterday with Tyler Fitzgerald with a home run, a triple, and a double in the 10-4 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. But it is something I did want to ask you about, Kai, being a former second baseman yourself. What you've seen from Tyler Fitzgerald, not just offensively, after we saw him working in the cage last week with Barry Bonds, but also defensively, because I think a lot of fans don't really put into perspective the fact that he has moved from the outfield to shortstop to now playing second base at the big league level.
Well, I've always said if you can play short and you can play center, then you should be able to play second base. The only difference in that position is you have shorter throws, and your back is to where you're going to throw on a double play. There are some other things that you have to work on, like where do you go on double cutoffs, and what's your responsibilities on bunt plays and pickoffs and things like that. And all that you get used to the more you play. I mean, I think he's done a really nice job, and I think he's going to get a lot better. He's had some chances on balls to his left and balls to his right that he just hasn't really looked 100% comfortable with yet. But I think that he definitely is going to get there just because he's an athlete. I mean, watching him run yesterday on that triple was like, my God, I think I used to run like that. It's like, wow, I'm now running through him, and just a beautiful glide and gait, and it almost looked like he took 4 steps and he went, from home to third. So he's got all of those tools in him, and I think the more he plays, the more that position is going to get really, really comfortable for him.
I totally agree. When I saw that ball go off the wall, I was like, all right. And then they cut to him rounding second. I was like, wait, he's rounding second already? Oh, what the heck? He just left the box. Couple more for you before I let you go, Dwayne. Willie Adames breaks the longest homerless drought of his career. Now, obviously that's probably not a homer at home, but it doesn't matter. He wasn't playing at home. So my point is that long drought, just his general, you mentioned that he was in a great mood, even if he wasn't hitting well. For him, that was the longest homerless drought of his career. He has to wake up this morning probably feeling a lot better.
Yeah, look, he's always got a smile on his face, and I don't think any of it's fake. I mean, I think even though he hasn't hit one out of the park, I think he's still very, very happy. But hitting home runs is part of his game, so he definitely wants to check that box, in that stat column. So he's finally got it done, and you're right. It's probably not a home run in our park, but you know what? They all count. I mean, look at Jung-Hoo Lee's 3 balls that he hit.
Yeah,
in New York, they're all doubles in our park.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hit them on the road and hit your doubles at home and still win games.
By the way,
getting back to Adames, look, he's hopefully he's off and rolling, and he doesn't have to worry about the home runs anymore.
2 last quick ones before you stick a peg in the ground. I said this will be the only game all year Jung-Hoo Lee strikes out 3 times. You with me?
Yeah, I am probably with you. Although, every once in a while, you're going to, run into some guy that's super, super tough.
Yeah.
And whether that was the case yesterday or not, I don't know. But he's not a guy that's going to strike out a lot. No. So, yeah, that was a little bit unusual. I might have to agree with you.
He's coming off a pretty good weekend, so we'll give him a pass. And then finally, Kuip, multiple choice question. This one divided the first hour of the show. A huge controversy, burning down the phone lines. I'm going to give you a multiple choice question. The word whiff, WHIFF, whiff in baseball. Is it A, only a swing and a miss at any time in the game, or B, only for strike 3 when you swing and miss to be struck out?
Really good, Murph. Really good question. I hope this isn't keeping you up at night. I think it's probably more used on a strikeout than on the first or second pitch.
That's you know what, Dwayne? You just made this old guy happy.
Yeah, because Kuip, I came in this morning. I said, Landon Roop had 8 strikeouts and 20 whiffs yesterday. And Murph goes, what? He had 20 strikeouts?
and the room is divided. The text line, people are like, a whiff is a swing and miss at any time. Murph, you're an idiot. And the other half is, Murph, I'm with you. A whiff is a strike 3 finish. And I'm actually influenced by your calls. You only use it when it's strike 3.
Right, and I got another one that really bothers me is when I hear announcers or fans say, a guy got hit, he got beamed.
Correct.
You don't get beamed unless you get hit in the head.
Only in the head, buddy. I'm with you. You and me, Kuip.
So I don't want to hear this. Oh, the guy got hit in the knee, he got beamed. No, he didn't.
You are correct.
He got hit in the knee.
He got beat. Yeah, the bean is your bean. It's your head. Right? Use your bean. Use your bean.
Why they call it the bean? Yeah. So anyway, if you got any more, let me know. I feel
Don't whiff
I
on
feel
the.
like I'm the judge and jury on this.
Don't whiff on the first tee today. Because, by the way, I have whiffed on the first tee before.
Well, I have too, but unless it's strike 3 whiff, then it doesn't count. As
it only counts as one, right? So that's a swing and a miss. Swing, because you always say.
I'm playing with Wotus.
Oh, whoa! All right, good. Man, don't you usually play with Eck?
Yeah, well, Eck wasn't invited to this one.
No, you got a special deal going. Is it? Yeah, I think.
Please don't tell him.
I know. I will.
I did have coffee with him though yesterday, and your name came up.
Oh, really? How did it?
Yeah.
Was it about whiffs?
I can't tell you. I can't.
I'm a big Eck fan, huge Eck fan. So, my dream is to have coffee with you and Eck. Go hit it. So what you're going to do is take a deep breath on the first tee, swing slowly, and smoke it right down the middle, just like Rory McIlroy, Dwayne.
Just like Lee Hammer.
Hey, do you know what? Lee can drive the golf ball. He can drive the freaking golf ball. He's a
I don't want to hear about it.
He might have the most fairways hit of any guy in San Francisco radio history. I'm going to say he's the best.
Don't want to hear about it.
All right.
All right.
Have a good one.
I don't want to talk about the Dodgers or Lee Hammer. How about that?
No. Or the Padres these days either.
Add them to the list.
Say hi to Woe for us. Go have a great time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I will. Bye.
The great Dwayne Kuiper on KNBR. Oh, the big hit. Were we doing Warriors-Grizzlies or are we doing Giants? We're doing Warriors-Grizzlies. Warriors-Grizzlies. We talked to Rob Fisher. We got some Warriors thoughts. Come on, there's a freaking play-in game tonight at 7 o'clock at Chase Center. Come on, let's go. 808 KNBR is the phone number. Are you at all worried about this game because of the Warriors' bad history?
All right, that was Dwayne Kuiper here on the morning show with Murph and Marcus. We are still waiting the conclusion of tonight's game so that we can pass things over to Dubs OT with John Dickinson. So when that happens, we will be happy to do so. But we're all waiting on pins and needles here on KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
is the flagship of Giants baseball. Double play! KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the sports leader.
What's Mike Kruko's old saying? A laugher? The Warriors win it going away against the Memphis Grizzlies. We can finally talk about the results of this game. Never in doubt, right, folks? No one got nervous. No one concerned. Referees did a great job toward the end as well. Oh, my goodness. This team did not make it easy. But the Golden State Warriors are headed to the playoffs. 121-116, a victory over the Memphis Grizzlies. This is why you trade for Jimmy Butler. 38 points, 12 field goals made, 12 of 16 from the line tonight. And this is why Steph Curry is, was, and always will be your franchise cornerstone. Steph Curry, 37 years old. Steph Curry, 37 points. Warriors had a 20-point lead, and it evaporated. The Grizzlies took a fourth-quarter edge over Golden State. And yet, the Warriors found a way to hang on. My goodness, what a ball game. Draymond Green fouls out in the final minute. Jimmy Butler throws the ball away in the final minute. And the Warriors still find a way to come out on top. Steph Curry scoring, what was it, something like 15 of the last 21 points the Warriors scored on Wednesday evening. On Tuesday evening. It's getting late, but we are getting ready to pass things off to John Dickinson as soon as he makes his way over to Harmonic Brewing. As soon as he's getting ready to set things up for you, he will be taking your phone calls at 415-808-KNBR. The Golden State Warriors are playoff bound. They will play on Sunday in Houston against the second-seeded, the Houston Rockets. And tonight was really make or break. Tonight was must win. Tonight was going to define whether or not the Warriors made the right move for Jimmy Butler, whether or not this team could be a serious threat in the postseason, or if it was all for naught, or if it was all for a season that was going to end far too early in the eyes of folks over at Chase Center, in the eyes of Warriors fans. The Warriors have ensured that they will get a full first-round series against a team in the Houston Rockets, who I think the Warriors match up pretty well against, but Houston will have the young legs, the fresh legs, the outstanding perimeter defense the Rockets showed when these two teams met up last week, and that is something that this Golden State team is going to have to overcome, because this is a Warriors squad that didn't look all that comfortable. Amen Thompson locked up Steph Curry at parts of last week's ball game, and I think that the Warriors are going to have to figure out a way to get stops defensively, because it was certainly a struggle against the Clippers on Sunday in the regular season finale. It was one of the reasons the Golden State Warriors were not able to take advantage of that Clippers matchup and not able to secure a top 6 seed in the Western Conference, but they will go into the playoffs as the 7 seed because they took care of business this evening, even if taking care of business was kind of like getting a root canal tonight. I don't know anyone that will watch that game and come away with an overwhelming sense of joy in terms of how the Warriors played in the second half, but my goodness, they found a way in a cardiac kids kind of way, but a cardiac vets kind of way to get the job done. Jimmy Butler plays 40 minutes tonight. Steph Curry plays 39, pretty much the entire fourth quarter, which is something you very rarely see from Steve Kerr, but it was a make or break moment. The Warriors certainly benefited from Jalen Wells not being on the floor tonight for the Memphis Grizzlies. And of course, Ja Morant banged up during the second half with that lower leg injury that he had to play through, and he didn't look like himself coming down the stretch, but the Warriors needed every little last bit of help that they could get. They, of course, didn't get much from the officials on Tuesday evening. There were some calls that I think were favorable toward Memphis, particularly in the final 2-3 minutes of that ball game. And over the back on Zach Edey that should have been called. The Warriors challenged it. That wasn't ruled a foul on Edey. It was instead ruled a foul on Draymond Green, who ultimately fouls out of that ball game. And the foul that Green fouled out on Desmond Bane, I thought was a ticky-tacky foul. And Green really should have been able to stay in that ball game. Perhaps the worst call of the evening was when Brandon Podziemski went up and blocked a shot at the rim in the final minute after Jimmy Butler threw the ball away, and it was just a clean, clear block. It was very obvious that Podziemski got all ball, and the officials had called a foul on that play. The Warriors, of course, not able to make a challenge because Steve Kerr had already used his challenge trying to get that Draymond Green call overturned that I thought should have been overturned. So regardless of all of that, regardless of all those calls, the Warriors will take it. Our man John Dickinson is on his way over to Harmonic Brewing. If you don't hear my voice after the break, you will hear JD introducing Dubs OT, a late version of the show this evening. We went long on Sports Phone KNBR. We started in the 6 o'clock hour. We will end here in the 10 o'clock hour as we are passing things off to Dubs OT. And if not, I'll just set things up for JD once he is on his way over to Harmonic Brewing, getting set to take your phone calls and breaking down all the action from a victorious Warriors evening, even if it was an absolute grind. Golden State takes it 121-116 over Memphis. The Warriors are playoff bound. We are headed to break here on KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.